seen what's happened when you don't have that.
DeSantis signed the bill at the Trinity Christian Academy in Jacksonville. The law was supported by Florida Republicans, opposed by Democrats, and LGBT activist groups plan to sue, calling it discriminatory. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Workers in Tennessee have begun the process of removing the remains of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest and moving the former slave trader's body from Memphis to a museum hundreds of miles away. Forrest sold slaves in Memphis and served in the Confederate Army as a cavalry general. In April 1864, his troops attacked Fort Pillow in northwest Tennessee and killed 200 to 300 Union soldiers, most of them black. With the approval of Forrest's relatives, the Sons of Confederate Veterans is overseeing the move. A judge approved it late last year, ending a long legal battle. Another grocery chain is offering vaccine incentives.
Kroger is one of the latest companies offering a COVID vaccine incentive as it aims to help the Biden administration inoculate 70% of Americans with at least one dose by the 4th of July. Registration for the
On March 16th of this year, a joint government task force raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested, most were released, but Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, and Ian Freeman both remain in custody. We've been in contact with attorneys that say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from the back of our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, violating our and your First Amendment rights. You can go to thecrypto6.com and donate to fight against these charges. But as importantly, contact media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for the use of cryptocurrency well into the future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
This is the Onion Week in Review. A study published Friday by the University of Minnesota found that mosquitoes have no physiological reason for biting humans, with researchers noting that the insects feed exclusively on pollen and seemingly only suck human blood out of spite.
According to our findings, mosquitoes usually spit out the blood after a bite. They just really enjoy ruining outdoor activities and spreading deadly diseases.
Researchers added that mosquitoes often bite a variety of vertebrates besides humans, including baby pandas, koala bears, and very small puppies, all for fun. And in tech news, a new Visa talking credit card urges buyers to go for it.
Come on, buy it. You know you want it.
In other news, the utterance of a secret password grants customers access to a long-rumored 18-inch Subway sandwich. It's easy to tell what an area man would look like as a skeleton, and a longtime teacher retires without changing a single student's life. This week's scheduled interview with the surly and forlorn Matthew Modine was cut for time and is doomed to never be seen. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, talk radio that you control.
I can barely hear you.
Say something, Mark.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Hold on.
Headphones issues here. I'm not exactly sure what's going on.
Yeah, I can barely be heard. Well, that's better, at least. I don't know. I did a lot of testing and equipment changes today, and evidently some of them got undid. I don't know. Anyway, it's Free Talk Live, talk radio you control. I'm certain that I'm too low at the moment, and I'm going to look into that momentarily.
If our producer has any feedback, then they can send it to Conan.
I'm the middleman. I'm the only one who gets to talk with the outside world tonight.
Yeah, this is unfortunate, but 603-283-6160, that's the call line. I don't know why the audio levels are suddenly so low when I spent the entire afternoon checking everything, and it worked just fine, but here we are doing the show, and we're much lower than I would expect us to be. But hopefully I can sort it out relatively quickly during the break. It's almost like something is muted, as far as I can tell, but I will sort that out. It's very, very unfortunate. And I'm being told that mics are overdriven, so maybe that's not an issue at all. I don't know. Maybe the studio music just came in louder than it was supposed to. Who knows? But 603-283-6160 is the call-in line, and that actually is exactly what it was. So that was on me, is that being so much louder than it should have been.
There you go. And so now this is the second evening that the studio has been up and running?
It is, and it's never simple, right? I mean, a lot of this is foreign to me. I'm a musician. I'm not a broadcast engineer or anything like that. So trying to convert these skills from being a musician into building a broadcast studio are not exactly as straightforward as you would like. Another issue is that I just sort of had to go on my own knowledge, right? Because of the terms of my release, I can't just go online and Google things when I have an issue or when I don't know something.
You're not allowed to use Google.
I can now.
Okay.
Because I was banging my head on the desk last night trying to figure something out, and I just couldn't figure it out. So I asked, hey, can I go online and do this? And I did get permission to.
Oh, isn't that nice of them?
It is. Well, I mean, it would be better if I didn't.
Take what we can get.
Yeah. It would be better if I didn't have to ask permission in order to do that, but it, like you said, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And now I can do that. I can go online and, Google, what is this microphone's impedance level? And then actually know how to do the math to calculate what I want stuff to be set at. So last night there was an issue with me being tinny, and tonight there's just sort of an issue with us hearing ourselves. But that's something I will sort out going forward, because I don't think the broadcast levels appear to be just fine, except that I'm clipping, and I know exactly why I'm doing that. Is because, when we came in so low, I turned myself and everybody else up and created clipping. So
now what's the name of this studio again? Amdusius is
the name of the studio. And it generally works a lot better when it's being used for the purpose that it was initially designed for, which is for music. Doing broadcast here is interesting. And I'm still mentally adjusting to that, right? Because for the last 2.5 years or whatever, I went to the Free Talk Live studio or the LRN studio in order to do the show. And now it's just like, okay, I go down to what is essentially a living room and do the show for the next 3 hours. It's very weird.
Well, we'll see how it all works out. So, we have to have two studios at this point. The Federal Bureau of Investigations and the U.S. Attorney's Office has decided that our hosts can't be together in the same room. It's just too dangerous. Okay. We're too dangerous. The government's had to limit us.
Well, my attorney notified me today that he is, in fact, filing a motion to amend those conditions, and he reported to me that Sisti is filing a similar motion. So hopefully, we know what's going to happen here, right? The magistrate is going to say, no, I don't want these people communicating because the government's objecting, and the magistrate's just going to do whatever the government wants.
Did anyone mention a First Amendment situation? By disallowing the main hosts of Free Talk Live to talk to each other, they're affecting the First Amendment rights, the rights of speech and the press of 500,000 people across the United States. That's about what our weekly listener numbers are. And, we make a show where anybody can call in about anything, and they can do so right now at 603-283-6160. That's 603-283-6160. And they can prove that anybody can call in and talk about what they want. So therefore, everybody who's listening to my voice has a First Amendment right in this circumstance that's being infringed.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you, no attorney wants to touch that, but it's my argument.
Yeah, I would point out they have the right not just to hear you, the First Amendment right for you to speak and to broadcast on your radio show, but they, as you point out, they have the right to also use this platform that you've built over the last 2 decades in order to express their opinions on national radio.
Right.
And that's always been the point of Free Talk Live.
So if there aren't the main hosts, then we can't do the show. If we can't do the show, those people can't call in. It seems like a clear violation of the First Amendment to me, but
look at the hoops we've had to jump through just to keep the show going.
It's been rough.
It's not ideal.
When the FBI came into our studio, busted in the window, shoved the door in, and pulled random wires out of the broadcast stack for no reason that I can discern at the very least, other than, wire bad. I don't get it.
Well, they didn't really know what they were doing, right? It's standard procedure, as far as I can tell, for them to unplug any broadcasting equipment or anything that could possibly be internet connected.
You don't think these knuckle draggers understood that they were walking into a radio studio?
And I don't think they did.
And arresting the engineer?
Aren't these the same clowns who took the safe and then had to bring it back because they were looking for the Bitcoin machine and they took the wrong damn box?
Sorry.
I've heard that, but I didn't actually. I was on my way to Concord or already in jail when that happened. So I don't know if that actually happened or not.
It did. They came and confiscated the wrong box, and then had to come back with their tail between their legs.
That's what I've heard too.
They had to come get the right machine.
Well, they didn't just confiscate the wrong box; they destroyed it. So I mean, safes cost money. They didn't include $200 or $300 in that safe that they had destroyed. And this is what it means to work for the government. It means you can do whatever you want, and you're not held responsible for it. It means you can do what you want, and you never have to say you're sorry.
Or including all the windows in the house, all the downstairs windows anyways. The door on all the homes was busted right off its hinges.
Yep.
Well, they certainly took down Free Talk Live for a full day. And one episode did not get broadcast to terrestrial radio.
But that's true, but several episodes after that were very, very staticky. So I'd say they took us down for a week.
I would tend to agree. It wasn't until I was allowed to go back to the studio that some of that stuff was able to be sorted out, simply because I was the one that Ian had showed all of that stuff to. And you think this is complicated, what you're looking at here on the wall, this increasingly, I think the captain describes Ian's setup as a snake pit orgy of madness. I'm fast working on putting one of those together. It's just unavoidable. You need this to do that. I have this thing here that I haven't even integrated yet that needs to be integrated.
Now, Ari, you said prior that you believe that they are intentionally trying to destroy this program, especially when you consider the complications of
that's certainly what it looks like.
The hosts not be able to talk to each other.
I have the article by Jim Bovard that says they're coming for the libertarians. So if you'd like to read that, I
would, because I've been talking about that repeatedly, but I can't just go online and Google search for it to find out exactly what was said. But I do recall someone in the U.S. government saying that they were going after all of the...
That was Brennan, I think.
All of the extremists and, quote, including libertarians.
The boat rockers.
And then suddenly...
the questioners of authority.
Just a few months later, 6 libertarians in New Hampshire are arrested. Wow. I'm not saying it's because of Brenner or whatever you said his name was.
Brennan.
Allegedly, the investigation here had been going on for more than 5 years. But the timing can't be ignored. And I don't know if they're intentionally taking down Free Talk Live or attempting to or not, but it certainly does look that way solely because they prevented all of us from having contact with the person who has managed and produced and built Free Talk Live over the last 15 to 20 years.
Yep.
And it's very difficult to work within those confines when Free Talk Live has employed me and I'm suddenly not allowed to talk to my employer, or the one person in our community who could come over here and help me get this stuff set up correctly and quickly. No contact.
Very suspicious.
So what are your thoughts? Are we being targeted? 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor, by David Weber and Richard Fox, from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it.
I think you're muted. I think you're muted. No.
All right, check. 1, 2, 3. This is Conan talking in mic 3. Check 1, 2, 3. This is Conan. How did that sound?
You sound loud and clear, man. Let me hear Mark.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Sounds good. Your caller on the line is Vernon. in Louisiana wants to talk about the modernization of Free Talk Live. Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Talk radio that you control. 603-283-6160 if you want to join the conversation. That's 603-283-6160. I would suggest joining the conversation while you can, because it looks like, as far as I can tell, as the person who, I initially said that the FBI didn't seem to be targeting Free Talk Live.
You did say that. And I will verify that statement.
And I said this because...
It frustrated me, but you said it.
I know it frustrated you. But I said this for technical reasons, right? Yep. They knocked out the windows, they flew in drones, they threw window weights into the actual LRN studio there, but they damaged nothing. They pulled out some cables, sure, but they didn't cut the cables, they didn't damage any of the equipment. But that's because it would have been too on the nose of them to do that. Instead, they're using the legal approach, as far as I can tell, to charge all of the people involved in a critical sense for Free Talk Live and prevent them from having communication with one another. How are we supposed to do a show without communicating with each other? It presents some interesting challenges, but, we've risen to the task, I suppose, as much as we can. Anyway, let's go to the phone. We got Vernon calling from Louisiana. Vernon, you're on Free Talk Live.
So a few years ago, I remember calling in and I asked, because Mark always traveled out of state, whenever it was the wintertime, and we wouldn't hear from him for months. And so I asked Ian, why don't you let Mark and other hosts, participate remotely? And I remember him saying, because the show was all about interaction and being there in person and all this stuff. And it's just really nice to see that Free Talk Live has the ability and has been forced, I guess, to allow hosts with great talent to participate remotely so that, we can enjoy what you all have to offer. Because that's one of the neat thing about radio is that, you probably can broadcast as long as you have the right equipment and the right kind of setup. And so I just wanted to, I know this is a negative experience and it's been thrust upon you all in a negative way, but at the same time, I think it's been a good way to maybe modernize how you all conduct the show. I don't know. Any thoughts on that?
I'd say this. First off, yes, I will say that this is the silver lining. It is a mighty thin lining, but it is the silver lining of what you're talking about. That maybe that Free Talk Live can Ian has experienced some level of enlightenment over this. I know that from before when I talked to him, when I could talk to him. Now I can't. And it's with his blessing that these sorts of things go forward. Not that we needed it because he was in jail and we could have done whatever we wanted, but it's nice to have it. And as Arya pointed out, he does know the equipment better than anyone.
Yes, and significantly so.
And it's significantly so. So what I would say is that in my experience is doing the show remotely. I am currently in the studio with both Conan and Arya right now. I could reach out and I'd have touched Conan just now.
Uh-oh, you better wash them hands. Get your goo out.
We got COVID. And it's better to do a show in studio with the people you're doing a show with. So when I was in Florida, I brought Henry Rains from the Henry Rains Show on, and I did a show with him with, some audio problems, but we got it done. And it's just a superior way to do a show. Having everybody in the studio here in Arya's studio, whatever the name for it is.
Amdusias.
Whatever that is.
So named because Amdusias is the demon of music.
Yeah, thanks. If you go any further with this, I'm going to leave.
You can't leave. I have to train you so you can do a show Sunday.
Yeah.
From the demonic music studio.
The doozy studio here. And it's a doozy of a show we're doing. And I think it's superior. So those are my thoughts on it. Yes, we're going to expand the idea of where Free Talk Live can be broadcast. But I think that Ian's fundamental idea is that it is superior to have people in the studio is still a true statement.
Certainly.
It's just not always something you can do.
I remember when we did Call to Freedom initially, before any of us moved to New Hampshire, it was all done using, I think, Ventrilo clients. And it was myself, Will Coley, and Tom Gray. And none of us were ever in the same room together. We could never tell when the other one had something to say.
Yeah.
It was very awkward and difficult. And the shows just weren't nearly as good as they were when we came to New Hampshire and carried on Call to Freedom from the actual LRN studio.
I mean, just being able to talk to each other during the breaks.
Well, those are the best parts, right?
Well, and of course, I've been pushing, and I don't know that it'll ever see the light of day, but airing the break audio for, I don't know, maybe special listeners who, the amplified listeners maybe, because some of the things that are said during the breaks are just off the charts sometimes.
Well, I would agree with you that the breaks are useful stuff. I haven't seen any indication that amp numbers would go up if we went through all the work to air what goes on in the studio at that time. I would if I thought that there was value to it, but I don't know.
Well, there was a time where I wanted to get some sort of digital recorder that I could just, set down and press record separately from everything else during the breaks, especially when it's Mark and me on, because Mark likes to give me crap about things, and I like to
love to give Arya crap about these sorts of things. Everything. I mean, Arya's wearing panties right now. It's hilarious.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mark. I'm glad you find humor in the fact that I'm trans. But I mean, some of the stuff he says during the break, it could never be broadcast onto terrestrial radio, unfortunately. But it's true. It's hilarious stuff. And I think if people heard it, they would love it. But we don't have that sort of system in place. And it's not, I don't know if it would increase amp funding or not, but it's something that I think people would enjoy. And it's still something I would like to do at some point.
Right, and I now you forced me into it. We've discussed the trans thing, so I have to, back it off. I have to say, look, Arya works with Free Talk Live. Arya was willing to work with Free Talk Live and works with Free Talk Live because of talent. It has nothing to do with how silly Arya's hair is or whatever underclothes she chooses to wear or whatever her preference and pronouns are. Look, I choose to use she in referring to Arya because that's what she prefers, and she has shown to me that she's valuable in my life, so I want to keep her in it, right? Like, as long as, and it's an added bonus that she can giggle about some of the jokes, right? Like,
sure.
I'm not going to take this. If you can make good heterosexual old guy jokes, I'm down. But I mean, we're kind of a boring crowd.
Well, there's that Biden incident this week.
What'd he do?
He likes kids.
Oh yeah.
He likes to talk about them on the mic.
What did he say? Because this is the first I've heard about
He's talking about a little 10-year-old girl and how she looks real cute with her pigtails like a 19-year-old. standing.
What?
It's just he's just.
Can you find the quote?
Well, so I've got two different thoughts on this. A, there's no doubt Biden's creepy, right?
Oh,
but B,
he's indisputably creepy.
I was just watching a school bus go by today, and I noticed that school bus windows are tinted. And I jumped to the conclusion that school bus windows are now tinted because we don't want people lecherously staring at our children, because every adult that doesn't know a child wants to molest them, because that's how crazy America has gotten. You understand? Like the idea.
You say that's the perspective.
That's the perspective of lunatics, right?
Okay.
Like that. If your kid walks outside, 9 rapists will jump on them and begin tearing their clothes off. This is crazy.
I don't know, because I don't have kids. I don't know how most parents, view children. But getting back to Vernon's point, Vernon, thank you so much tonight for the call. I agree. Seeing Free Talk Live being further decentralized is always a good thing, because decentralization can only make something stronger. 603-283-6160. That's the call line. 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Karl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
A Rasmussen poll reveals that nearly all American voters share a deep fear of botching another election, with most voters admitting that selecting candidates for public office is something they're historically just not particularly good at.
I really hope I don't completely fuck things up as usual, but you never know. Things do happen.
According to the poll, 3/4 of voters said Election Day panic would cause them to base their vote entirely on hearsay, while 93% acknowledged that they only recognized names of local candidates from signs along state highways. In Cedar Rapids, Iowa, stunned friends and acquaintances expressed shock and disbelief when a body found in the woods turned out not to be Justin. Local residents found the naked corpse draped over a tree stump Saturday, and as news spread, many found themselves struggling to comprehend how it wasn't Justin lying dead in the forest.
I heard the news, and I still can't come around to it. I just can't imagine that it's not Justin there lying dead in the woods. Are they absolutely sure it's not him?
Friends and family are still urging authorities to double-check the body, or at the very least, bring in Justin as a suspect.
This is the Onion News Network.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs. As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love, and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond those parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way.
love as your guide,
and liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. You can take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever is on your mind. 603-283-6160. And with you in the Enthusiast studio tonight, it's Aria.
It's Conan.
And Mark.
So I'm second chair. Now we're flipped up on our heads now.
I don't know if there's really a second or third chair in this environment. I don't know. But, what is all right, never mind. I don't want to get on that because then Mark will flip out. He doesn't want to hear about demons.
No, I don't.
Ahead.
What would the demon of music, how would he position us?
I have no idea.
All right, well, you got to work on it. You got to work on
I just took the name because
your
I
demon,
liked it.
your demon feng shui.
Arya doesn't believe in demons.
He is correct. But anyway, we ran into a sound issue earlier where I had the music turned way up for us, and it's frustrating to me because I spent the better part of 6 hours in here today saying into various microphones, it's Free Talk Live, and doing that whole thing just over and over. I've said that so many times today that I could just say it in my sleep at this point.
Yeah.
I will probably be muttering it all night as I sleep, in fact. But anyway, so we've been asking whether or not Free Talk Live is being targeted by the FBI or by the government, as it were. And Mark, you have a quote from the guy who said this. Now, who exactly is this guy?
Yeah, so there's a lot of this stuff floating around, and it's important to get it distinct. The newspapers will tell you, no, they're not coming after the libertarians. And anybody who says that is wildly insane. And
well, yes, except the government, some government goon has said exactly that.
Well, I'll read it for you, and you can determine what was said. So this is Brennan is his name. Hold on, he's defined here earlier.
He's the former CIA director.
Yeah, former CIA director.
So he's not a person in power now.
Right. This is the quote. I know looking forward that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas, where they germinate in different parts of the country, meaning the United States, and they gain strength and brings together an unholy alliance, frequently of here's the unholy alliance, frequently of religious extremists, authoritarians, fascists, bigots, racists, nativists, and even libertarians.
Authoritarians?
Yeah, I don't know why libertarians would be hanging out with authoritarians or
fascists or nativists
or bigots or whatever this all is. But to say that the libertarians weren't quoted as the government. He says right here, Brennan says, I know looking forward that the members of the Biden team who have been nominated or have been appointed are now moving in laser-like fashion to uncover as much as they can about what looks very similar to insurgency movements that we've seen overseas. And then includes in these insurgency movements libertarians.
Specifically,
right.
Libertarians.
That's the word. And I'm a libertarian. Does this make me comfortable? No, it does not. Has everything I've seen so far say that policing organizations are after libertarians in the last year? Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of that. And I would go so far as to say, look, it's pretty clear since I've moved to New Hampshire, cops here don't like us. And one of the reasons is in many cases, libertarians point out that cops are the tip of the spear of the state. So if the government wants to do something, they employ police officers to do it.
Yes,
if they want to
they
round
are the
up your
enforcement
guns,
wing of the state.
Right. If they want to round up your guns, or they want to go after a particular group, or they want to do this thing or that thing, They use cops to do it because cops are paid to enforce the will of the state. So cops, ever the martyrs, are always like, well, why does everybody hate us? Well, I got an idea. Maybe it's because you enforce victimless crime laws. Well, the politicians voted that in. You took the paycheck to enforce their rules. It's not like you didn't know that there would be victimless crime laws that were in place.
And it's not like they don't have discretion, because they absolutely do. They're not required to intervene if they see someone being murdered on the streets. And the U.S. Supreme Court has backed up that opinion.
Right, that's the truth.
So they're therefore no more obligated to arrest someone for having pot or smoking pot. They're not required to intervene in any crime.
And I'm sure that plenty of cops have overlooked plenty of people with marijuana and all these sorts of things. The problem is that when you use discretion, you tend, as a human being, to use discretion in an unfair fashion.
Yes, in biased ways.
In biased ways. That's what it means. Discretion, in fact, suggests bias activity. So what really is the problem is the laws, but the police aren't. The police know that victimless crime laws benefit them. They know it.
Well, otherwise they don't get a paycheck. There just aren't that many actual victim crimes in Keene, New Hampshire, for us to have a police department at all, probably, but much less as many police officers as we have. And
it's certainly true that cops, probably every day in America, stop crimes with a victim. But, the question is what's that worth, and that's what's the statistical likelihood of this occurring in the future, and these sorts of things. And what's prevention mean? Is it their very presence? Did they throw themselves in front of a bullet to protect an innocent? Who knows?
I'm not entirely convinced that there are very many crimes prevented by police in the United States each day.
Well, let's say this: first off, we've read numbers that say 50%, 50% of people who are, more than 50% of people who are in jails, prisons, holding facilities, probation, and all these, under some kind of supervision, are completely victimless crime.
Right.
Completely. Over 50%. Now, then you think about how many people committed a crime in order to get drug money or gambling money or money for whatever it is that the crime that they didn't have, because drugs, the price of drugs is driven up by the drug war.
Right.
Aspirin doesn't cost much because you can produce as much as you want as the environment will carry. Well, that would be true with heroin too. Now, I'm not advocating for the use of heroin, and I never would.
Obviously not.
But I will say that it's the drug war that makes heroin cost a lot. So there are heroin users out there robbing someone's house right now, potentially putting their pets and their family members in danger because of the price of heroin. And that's the politicians and the cops' fault.
Not to mention the heroin addicts who are overdosing because they're getting heroin that isn't safe, isn't tested, wasn't made in a lab, and they don't know what they're getting. And again, it's the drug war causing that.
I would agree with that too. I mean, that's a fair statement, but I think that people are more concerned about victims than they are about the people who use drugs. But nonetheless, it's true. And ultimately, if you take out the people who are committing a crime in order to get the money to commit drugs, I don't know what that number is, but I'm just suggesting that if you ended the drug war, maybe you'd cut crime in the United States by 80%, 80%. What politician's talking about that? What sheriff is running on a tough on crime, says that I'm going to cut crime by 80%. Here's Mark Edge on the radio right now saying, vote for me, I'll cut crime by 80%. Now, I don't know what I'm running for, but by God, write me in. I'm better than the other guy.
Are you planning to run for Cheshire County Sheriff, Mark?
No. I wouldn't run for anything in Cheshire County. New Hampshire, in my opinion, is kind of a lost cause.
Well, then they can't write you in.
No, they can write me in if they want.
Okay, fair enough. But you wouldn't take the job?
Oh, I'll take any job. I'll take any one of these political jobs I get. Believe me, I'd fly back and become a resident of wherever I got the job just to stick it to whomever.
Unfortunately, yeah, I tend to think I would agree as well.
Yeah. So,
well, what about?
But I'm not a resident of the mainland United States, so.
But I'm not sure that I could actually serve in any political capacity without violating my principles. So I don't know whether or not I actually would. But I'm never, going to get elected for anything. So it's kind of a moot point. The closest I got was probably the sheriff campaign, and that was like, 20 2%, something like that.
Not bad.
What are your thoughts? What would you do if you could be the sheriff? Would you end the drug war? 603-283-6160.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it. And once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15 to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live. And 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line. You can join the conversation, talk about whatever you want, or talk about what we've been discussing, which is, the fact that the powers that be have made it clear they are going after libertarians, and immediately after this, they started going after libertarians.
Right.
Well, the fact that we were lumped in with fascists, bigots, racists, nativists,
authoritarians,
insurgents, and compared to the insurgencies of other countries that are currently, running up and down their streets with the Molotov cocktails and flipping things over because their governments have been harassing them forever and ever, and it's like the people are finally stood up.
Right.
Regular people. We're not talking about the Black Lives Matter. We're talking about regular, teachers and firemen and male people.
Well, I love how I think it's amusing how Americans like the idea of insurgencies in many other countries out there. They cheer it.
Or just look at our media. Look at Hollywood. All of our heroes are insurgents. They're all the good guys are the little guy.
It's common. It's
fighting. Star Wars is a prime example.
Yeah. Well, it certainly is. But even the cops in the movies are often breaking the rules of the system in order to get things done.
Dirty Harry.
Yeah.
Mark, tell us real quick about Bitcoin.com.
Bitcoin.com is your choice for all things cryptocurrency, whether it's Bitcoin or the other cryptocurrencies you've heard of. Bitcoin.com is the place to get started. So you want to go there. If you've never heard about cryptocurrency, please go watch their videos. You deserve that much. You should give yourself that gift to know. Just go to Bitcoin.com, click Get Started right there at the top of the page, and watch the 10 minutes worth of videos that are there. Secondly, if you're, a long-term Bitcoin and cryptocurrency user, go ahead and go to news.bitcoin.com and sign up for their updates because, well, you need to know this stuff. It's news.bitcoin.com.
Thanks so much. It's still a kind of a murky gray area for me. I'm not sure whether or not I can even do the live read for Bitcoin.com because I'm suggesting or I am instructing people on how to learn about cryptocurrency, and it's not entirely clear if that's a violation of my terms of release or not.
I think that's an unlikely circumstance, but it's probably best if you don't go interpret your release standards. You get somebody else to interpret them in writing.
Well, I find it better to just hand the live read off to someone else, and then I have nothing to do with it. So,
well, I'm a professional.
Thanks. Let's go to the phones. We've got James calling from Michigan. James, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, before the break, you guys brought up an interesting discussion point I struggle with, which is, do you run for office and try to make change, or do you, so we'll say, turn that position down in favor of your ideals or morals or principles?
Let me say, I'll jump in on this. Aria, you can get yours first. So first off, I find the idea of turning it down based on your morals boring. Like I find this is ho-hum. You and your lofty morals. I know you don't feel that way, Aria, and you can go ahead and address that. But, oh, goody, another too good for his own good person out there. But what I would say the question is really is it worth? Like, you've got, James, this limited time on planet Earth. I don't know your age, but I know mine, and it's 50, right? So I've got somewhere between 20 and 50 more years left on planet Earth. And do I want to use that time arguing with these a-holes over nonsense? I mean, I've seen what goes on in Concord and state capitals around the United States, and it's just a bunch of waste of time. I'd rather live my life enjoying it.
Well, you don't have to run for state rep or senate or anything like that. You don't have to deal with those idiots and their bureaucratic
You're talking
nightmare.
Specifically about running for sheriff
or anything else, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
here's a more personal example.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is I'm in a position where I could probably run for city council and accomplish that, where you could actually make you could argue you make local differences.
Yeah. City council is a powerful position.
Here's my take on this, because a couple of years back, I actually voted for a council member for the first time, who I actually supported. Someone from the community, and I think he probably leans right conservative. And I almost always agree with everything he brought to the table. He was always criticizing the grandstanding that was going on a regular basis, on the corruption of power that these little council people abuse on a regular basis here in Keene. And he ran for one term, and after that he says, forget this nonsense. Here I am, 1 out of 15 people.
Yeah.
And he was the only one who questioned what was going on a regular basis. And he finally said, you know what? Screw this. I'm going to do exactly what Mark says. I'm up in my years. I got other things to do, and I'm not going to be wasting my time 2 times or once a week with these a-holes.
Right, and in this case, you're talking about a city council of 15 people. In many cases, it's just 5, and you can get some things done this way or that way. This is one of the reasons I say Keene is too far gone. There's lots of towns that are too far gone in one way or one direction or the other. If you can get on the right city council and get the right other, you can get a lot of things done. There's no doubt, but it's still monumentally boring.
Oh yes, definitely.
Even if you're successful, this is boring, and it's designed to be boring to keep you out of it, so that people with good sense that aren't power hungry, crazy lunatics will stay away. I mean, if you just go watch I'm sure you can get it online. But ladies and gentlemen, if you don't believe me, go watch your county commission meeting. Just the last one. You'll want to gouge your eyes out. It's so terrible.
And they always preface these meetings with, "We wish more people would participate. We wish more people would watch these programs." No, they don't.
They wish more people would co-sign their BS.
Yes, they don't want you
I wish there were more people that believed the crazy crap I believe.
They do not want you knowing what they're doing behind the shadows, because as soon as that happens, you can see what has happened across this country, where you have school boards that are basically being overtaken by concerned parents. It's like, what do you mean critical race theory? We don't even know what this is. Why are you shoving this down our kids' throats? And then you have boards that are being overturned. You have little towns that are kind of in the same boat, where concerned citizens are stepping up to the plate. It's like, yeah, we know this is boring. We know this is it's going to take our hours out of our short existence. But you know what? We're not going to have these a-holes continue to do what they do, which is run ramp shot.
And this is why the middle class has always been the patriots, right? And I don't mean to exclude the lower classes, but the people who are the rubber hits the road. These are the real patriots, the people that care about governance, because they don't have the ability to sort of pick up and leave and just get out. If you're, retired and you've got your pension and some money, you can go live anywhere. You can go live in Florida and play golf. You can go live in Belize and not have to deal with the federal government, live like a king on your pension. You don't have to deal with it. But it's the middle class people that really have to pick up the stick.
Which the last time I checked was dying in this country, middle class.
James?
I had him on hold because you were just talking. James, are you still with us?
Yeah. I was going to argue that I, at a certain level, enjoy the entertainment of picking on the city council when I would attend the meetings on subjects that I didn't agree with.
You're the right person for the job.
Tearing them apart.
Yeah. You're the right person for the job. The thing is that you would have to be careful that you didn't pick them apart and tear them apart too much, because then they won't be your friends, and then they won't do what you want them to do. They'll vote against you because they don't like you.
Yep.
James, thank you so much tonight for the call. It's an interesting question, and when I ran for sheriff, I would have served as sheriff, primarily because it didn't require me to swear an oath. It's one of the few elected offices in New Hampshire that did it. So I didn't have to, swear an oath of loyalty.
You don't have to swear to uphold the Constitution and
Not
protect it?
from what I could tell.
I don't think so.
I read the statute. It did not include the sheriff's office and the capacity that they serve in.
Right.
But I could have done it in a way that did not conflict with my moral principles. It would not have been easy, but I could have and would have done it. So I would have served if I would have won, but obviously I didn't, and I never intend to do that again.
The only thing that I've run for is delegate to the state convention for the Republican Party in the state of New Hampshire, and I've won all of those elections. Oh, no, I ran for budget committee in my town because I didn't think anybody was running against me, but then when another person ran, I endorsed them and but I couldn't drop out. I was still on the ballot.
Right, but you didn't really want to be. You were just trying to fill the spot, and then someone else actually turned out to be.
Right. I thought I'd be a good choice, but I thought they were a good choice too. And if they want to go do it, by all means, have at it.
603-283-6160. You're welcome to call in and join the discussion. It's Free Talk Live.
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless free market non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Bitcoin.com has launched a trading platform at local.bitcoin.com, allowing you to buy or sell Bitcoin Cash via dozens of payment methods like PayPal, Venmo, bank deposit, remittances, or meeting in person with cash. There are no ID requirements to sign up for and use the site, and all communications between buyers and sellers are encrypted. Finally, a global trading platform that respects your privacy. Visit local.bitcoin.com to get started trading Bitcoin Cash. Local.bitcoin.com. Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
A somber milestone. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Biden in Tulsa, Oklahoma, marking 100 years since the race massacre in the Greenwood section of the city, once known as Black Wall Street.
Hundreds of black residents were killed. Thousands of homes and businesses were burned.
For much too long, the history of what took place here was told in silence, cloaked in darkness.
But the president says we can't just learn what we want to know.
We should know the good, the bad, everything. That's what great nations do.
At the event, President Biden also announced proposals to build wealth in communities of color, including a $10 billion community revitalization fund.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. One firefighter is dead, another wounded after a shooting at a small L.A. County fire station in the town of Agua Dulce. At the same time, a fire was reported at a home about 10 miles east of the shooting. This resident says he saw on TV what happened at the firehouse, and he heard the suspect might have come to a house near him.
Sheriff's helicopters flying very low overhead for quite a while. They said there was a body in the backyard.
Authorities have confirmed that a body was in the yard, but have not confirmed that identity. The largest meat company in the world forced to shut down some packing plants as it's the latest target of a ransomware attack. The company, JBS, is based in Brazil. White House Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says JBS told the administration the ransom demand came from a criminal organization, likely in Russia, and that the administration has been in touch with Russian officials.
Delivering the message that responsible states do not harbor ransomware criminals.
JBS has several processing plants in the U.S., including in Texas and Colorado. Wall Street, the Dow gained 45. America is listening to Fox News.
Indeed is the job site that makes hiring as easy as 1, 2, 3. Post, screen, and interview. All on Indeed. Get your quality shortlist of candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description faster. Only pay for the candidates that meet must-have qualifications. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. Get started right now with the free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Fox. Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
Florida becomes the latest and most populated state to enact a law mandating student athletes play on teams according to gender at birth.
Athletes born male must play only on male scholastic and collegiate sports teams in Florida under a new law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis.
And we think it's important that they're able to compete on a level playing field. And, you've seen what's happened when you don't have that.
DeSantis signed the bill at the Trinity Christian Academy in Jacksonville. The law was supported by Florida Republicans, opposed by Democrats, and LGBT activist groups plan to sue, calling it discriminatory. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Workers in Tennessee have begun the process of removing the remains of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest and moving the former slave trader's body from Memphis to a museum hundreds of miles away. Forrest sold slaves in Memphis and served in the Confederate Army as a cavalry general. In April 1864, his troops attacked Fort Pillow in northwest Tennessee and killed 200 to 300 Union soldiers, most of them black. With the approval of Forrest's relatives, the Sons of Confederate Veterans is overseeing the move. A judge approved it late last year, ending a long legal battle. Another grocery chain is offering vaccine incentives.
Kroger is one of the latest companies offering a COVID vaccine incentive as it aims to help the Biden administration inoculate 70% of Americans with at least one dose by the 4th of July. Registration for the
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
Pennington is reeling this hour from one of the biggest stories we've seen in decades.
That's right, Kathy. Mayor Sue Hallinan has stepped down following revelations of her involvement in a coupon forging scandal. After a week of fervent denials, Mayor Hallinan admitted that last Thursday she used 5 counterfeit coupons on a weekly shopping trip to the Kroger for a savings totaling $14.81.
Once you've made a fake coupon and you've had a taste of that power, it's hard to stop.
How much time does one woman need? Mayor Hallinan also apologized for her first response to the controversy when she blamed Jared the paperboy for stealing her coupons and replacing them with the fakes.
I don't know what to say. She could have ruined my career. I hope she goes to jail forever.
And in what many are saying is the ultimate indignity, Mayor Hallinan's photo has been put up on the Kroger's so-called banishment wall in between such undesirables as the Fredericks boy and infamous gum thief, Mr. Ivins.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. That's the call-in line. You're welcome to join the discussion. 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
And Mark. And Conan.
And I should specify, with you from the Amdusius studio tonight, because we are not in the LRN studio, as someone has just noticed on Twitch. I don't know which Twitch they're looking at, but you can find us at twitch.freetalklive.com. We are not in the LRN studio because I am not allowed to have contact with Ian, who is under house arrest, which means he essentially can't leave the LRN studio. And Mark is not allowed to have contact with Ian, who, as I said, is at the LRN studio.
Yeah, and I've got to say, as the one of the ministers of the church that has to pay for all of this equipment that has to go into play, this is annoying.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that. The audio device that I purchased a few weeks ago I bought it to be a compressor, right? That was the sole purpose I wanted it for. But suddenly I had to have 3 microphones and not just 2, which is what I was running previously.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust it to be the preamp that I wanted it to be, and the audio quality, I was just listening on the stream, it's not there. I'm just going to have to get another one of the pieces of equipment that I have already and run this mic to it, because this one's just not cutting it. The sound quality from you two is fantastic, indistinguishable from the LRN studio. The sound quality for me is horrific, and it's driving me crazy.
All right. I guess you can tell the difference. I can't in the headphones.
It's not as prominent in the headphones as it is in the live stream.
Okay.
And I don't know how it's coming out on terrestrial radio, because obviously I'm doing the show and not listening on terrestrial radio. But during the breaks, I can pull up, my YouTube channel and see what it sounds like, and it's not good. I mean, it's tolerable. It's not like it's bad. I got rid of the tinniness and all of that, but there's some equalization issues that I just have to sort out. And
that's the compressor, not the mic, right?
Yes, that's the actual compressor doing that. The mic is awesome. The mic is brand new.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's why all of this is taking place, because Mark and I aren't allowed to have contact with Ian. It's amazing that Mark and I are allowed to have contact, really, but my attorney specifically asked, and it's good to go. So there is that.
Yeah, it's strange. So I've got this story from Jim Bovard, who is a longtime libertarian writer, about, we were talking about how the government is coming after libertarians. And we read a quote from Brennan, a former FBI director. CIA director.
He's the one who was talking about chemtrails a couple years back.
Okay, I don't know. And that said basically that the government is, the Biden administration is laser-like focused on getting a bunch of groups, among them libertarians. Sound right? That sounds like a fair statement? Okay.
He lumped us in with a lot of other groups, and he is thinking the Biden administration, with laser-like precision, should take us all out.
On the day that Joe Biden was inaugurated as president, former CIA chief John Brennan announced on television that federal intelligence agencies are moving in laser-like fashion to try to uncover as much as they can about various suspect groups, specifically mentioning libertarians. Libertarians are in the federal crosshairs. 6 or 7 years ago, there was a lot of prattle about the libertarian movement has arrived. I always knew this was hokum. Since then, there's been a huge increase in hostility to libertarians in Washington, D.C., and everywhere around the country. People who have power do not like people who don't want them to have that power, and libertarians don't want them to have that power.
Correct.
Many
libertarians generally don't want that power.
Right. Libertarians are working hard to set you free. And
it's a very weird conundrum, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we are effectively attempting to seek power so that we can dismantle the power structure. Or at least that's the claim. I don't know how many of the libertarians running for office are actually going to hold to that. I mean,
that is a good point, because that takes us back to last segment where we were actually talking about libertarians running for office, and it's really it's opposite of how we handle our own affairs. It's what you want me to work to actually rule over other human beings? That's not how I wake up in the morning, man. It just doesn't work.
It isn't, but I'm worried. Every revolution in human history has had people who said, hey, no, we don't actually want to control you or be your dictator. We want to set you free and allow this beautiful ecosystem
because people want to be set
flourish.
Free. They don't want a new person to rule them, but that's in fact what the vast majority of them want to do to you.
Yes, and then they get into power, and suddenly they're like, oh, yeah, we want to actually, yes, they get that.
Get a little taste.
Well, I mean, like take Cuba, for instance. They're still calling their government the revolution. I mean, that revolution occurred before I was born, and I'm 50. And they're still calling it the revolution. Now, the United States government was founded by a revolution. We do not call our government the revolution.
No.
And
because it isn't. It's more of the same.
It's more of the same.
But I will argue that we're talking that people don't want another ruler. They don't want to be ruled. But I don't think that's true. I think there is a large segment of the population who really do like everything being laid out for them. I think they really like to be told what to do.
But I think it's because they've never had a taste of freedom, and the idea just terrifies them.
Yeah, exactly. I think on some level they know that making their own decisions, being responsible is a lot of work, and they just don't want to put up with it. They'd rather have everything laid out for them, told to them and ordered to them by someone who they think might be smarter than them. I mean, look at Follow the Science. Look at the Follow the Science people.
Well, I think they don't want to be ruled by somebody who's smarter than them as much as they want to be part of the ruling class. So, for instance, if you're a Democrat, or you identify as a Republican, or you're closer to one or the other of these, you want your people in charge of the team because that way you can watch your people shove some unpleasant policies down the throat of the people that you dislike the most.
Of the other
because
tribe.
Remember, no Democrat votes for the Democrat because they like the Democrat. They vote for the Democrat because the Republican is terrifying. And vice versa is absolutely true also.
Sure, it's a hate sell. It's just a perpetual game of vengeance against the other party. The Democrats get in and they punish the Republicans for what the Republicans did when they were in power. Then the Republicans get in and they do exactly the same to the Democrats.
And meanwhile, you got us in the middle. We're looking at you had these two tribes on either side of us throwing their feces at each other like chimpanzees.
Well, I think that I can tell you in New Hampshire, the mistake has been made by the Democrats to vilify the libertarians as just more Republicans, and thus creating that as true, right? Like, if somebody acts like your enemy, you're going to treat them like your enemy. And so the libertarians who've gotten in power, and at this point they are legion in New Hampshire.
Yep.
They treat the Democrats as their enemy a bit more than they do the Republicans. And that's the fault of the Democrats. They never said, hey, let's work together on some issues that we agree on. They never did that. They were always like, get away from me, you cootie-driven capitalist!
Oh, yeah.
I hate you!
It really hit home this last year with all the mask mandates and, it just brought out a whole nother level of these people. And you know what? I don't vote Democrat or Republican. And yet, I'm going to tell you, I have a really hard time with Democrats.
I tend to have the same sort of thing, and I know I wouldn't, as a libertarian, I wouldn't pass for a Democrat very well. Many will. Libertarians come from both sides, but I'm concerned about economic issues, and as far as I'm concerned, Democrats are economically illiterate.
Yeah.
They just don't know what they're talking about. Now, when it comes to social issues like the Republicans hating on my gay friends, well, screw the Republicans, but best I can tell, my gay friends have all the rights they need. It's just the Republicans don't like them. Well, so what? There's people in the world that don't like you. Tough.
But I mean, even pro-social issues, are they even that these days? What happened to the anti-war left? What happened to now they're all talking about critical race theory and whatnot, and they want everyone segregated.
I got called a bigot today.
By?
I got called an anti-trans bigot today by a leftist.
And did they see you?
I presume they knew I was trans before they said it, but they certainly know now. But yes, compared me to Caitlyn Jenner and called me, I don't remember exactly what it was, but definitely a bigot. It's absolutely insane how intolerant the left really is on social issues.
It's absolutely true.
Talking about. What are your thoughts? This is Free Talk Live.
Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in changing that. When Rear Admiral Terrence Murphy is given governorship of a backwater system, a risk-free path to wealth and power is his for the taking. But Murphy is a man of honor, duty, and responsibility. He intends to stop the killing, whatever the cost. Governor by David Weber and Richard Fox from BaneBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
The easiest thing in the world for a reader to do is to stop reading, according to the late, great Barney Kilgore, who became managing editor of the Wall Street Journal in 1941 and grew the paper's circulation from 33,000 to 1 million by the 60s. And he'd be pleased to know that his paper is one of the few that people now pay to read online. Someone else pre-internet who realized that attention is fragile? Motown Records founder Berry Gordy. In the early 60s, when his label dominated the charts, he'd bring a dozen real people into the Hitsville, USA studios and audition songs. And he'd ask, if you were down to your last dollar, would you spend it on this record or would you buy a sandwich? Today, attention span seems like an oxymoron. For tips on cutting through the clutter, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Is oral health important to you? If you don't like your own teeth, fresh breath, or kissing people, then by all means stop listening. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I became passionate about the product that she created and never want to live without it. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, but I find it does much more. They want you to love My Magic Mud as much as I do, so they're giving you a money-back guarantee plus 20% off. Go to mymagicmud.com and use coupon code FTL20 at checkout. mymagicmud.com, FTL20.
Do you appreciate what we do? Help us advertise, market, and promote for just $5 a month at amp.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the discussion, that's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, it's Aria.
And Mark.
And Conan.
And I want to tell you about ForkFest because I'm looking forward to it. It's just 20 days away. I just have to get through a little over 3 more weeks at my other job, and then it's 2 weeks of, quote, vacation, where I will be at Rogers Campground for June the 21st through July the 4th. Only part of that is actually ForkFest. So that's June the 28th through July the 4th at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. You can learn more about it at forkfest.party, but basically it's a decentralized fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival. There's no one in charge. In fact, I would characterize ForkFest as being the full 2-week period, and I would say that the decentralized methodology of ForkFest has allowed the Porcupine Freedom Festival to take place concurrently with ForkFest. At any rate, June the 28th through July the 4th, I'm going to be there. Mark, I imagine you intend to make an appearance at some point?
Well, I wasn't intending to go because I was calling it Subpoena Fest with my, the federal subpoena that was tracking me down. But as the story I will tell a little later here, I received that subpoena and it wasn't very pleasant.
Well, it rarely is. Now, I do consider it FBI Fest, but I've always just sort of considered it FBI Fest.
Yeah, but at this point, what's the FBI going to do to you? I mean, you're already out on bond. I, on the other hand, until very recently, had a subpoena hunting me, and I wasn't going to do anything to help them to serve it.
Fair point. Anyway, forkfest.party is the website if you want to learn more about it. It's forkfest.party. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to be there. A lot of other Liberty loving people will be there. So come up and check it out. And plus, there's a fireworks show to look forward to.
Ooh.
And that's going to be, I believe, on July the 3rd. But Mark, tell us this story about the subpoena.
Well, I do want to get finished with a story about from Jim Bovard with the Libertarians, but it is long. So since I teased it, I'll go ahead and tell the subpoena story right now, and then we'll jump back into the Jim Bovard. The federal government is coming for the Libertarians shtick. Okay. So basically, the FBI came to town in Keene, New Hampshire, a few weeks after the raid, and a couple of weeks after the raid, and said, "Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we've got some of the things we took from you that we shouldn't have taken from you, and we're trying to give them back." And so they literally called in, many of the people that were arrested or their family members or other people who were involved, and said, "Here's your stuff," and gave several of them their stuff.
Oh, how nice of them.
Two of those people, Chris Reitman, a former co-host here, and Bonnie, who is a co-host on the show currently, contacted me, and I believe these were the two that contacted me and said, "Hey, this FBI agent, I can't remember her name off the top of my head, says that she has some stuff that was taken from you during the raid and wants to return it to you."
Yeah, I had heard this story, and it seemed weird to me. I don't believe they took anything of yours during the raid.
They did take some things of mine during the raid, or at least the Shire Free churches that I would like to have seen returned. And I was kind of surprised at the notion, but delighted and enticed at the notion that they would have given it to me. But I wisely had my attorney call to say, "Hey, what's that stuff? I'd like to get that from you." And they said, "That stuff is a subpoena. Are you Mark's attorney? Because we'd like to give it to you, because we don't like to work." Now, the first thing these people did was forge their weapon in evil, right? They told a lie to get me to come and get their subpoena. They never, this is the thing about these people.
That's shocking, right?
Well, it's not shocking. This is the raid that should have been a phone call, right? They never called Free Talk Live or Ian or anybody and said, "Hey, we think you're doing some things that might be questionably legal. We'd like to give you some guidelines on how you can handle this." Nothing like this.
That's what bothers me most about this, is that all of this could have been done by just knocking on my door at a reasonable hour.
Yeah. And so
there was no benefit whatsoever to them conducting a raid on my property.
There's a benefit to them.
Except flaunting their power and sending a message.
Well, it didn't work because I stood right there on the stairs refusing to obey the command they were giving me to disrobe.
Disrobe?
Yeah, I was wearing a pair of underwear and a throw blanket, and they were telling me to put my hands in the air, which was going to cause the blanket to fall, and I just flat refused to do it. And I didn't do it. And in the end, I won that particular
Were they pointing guns at you?
They were.
Oh.
And I won that particular battle of wills. Well, what were they going to... Really? They want to file a report about
this
how
is the Federal Bureau of Investigations. They walk into people's houses and shoot them more often than they will admit. They just do it. And there's no evidence. Were there body cams of these people?
I don't know.
Nothing to leak, I can assure you.
But they would not have been able to win the media war of shooting the trans activist who made international headlines last year by running for sheriff. That would have done nothing to help their case.
I might agree with you on that statement. So anyway, they tried to give me this subpoena, and then I'm like, well, now I'm not playing ball. I don't know what I would have done otherwise had they said, "Ring, ring, hey, Mark, we have a subpoena for you." It doesn't sound good, right?
Well, a subpoena is never a good thing.
But I definitely am not playing ball when they forge their weapon in evil. And then, it just got kind of lax, right? Like there's no one visited my mother's house trying to find me. Nobody that I know of visited the house that I'm renting currently. They didn't come to the studio. They didn't do anything that I know of trying to serve me a subpoena. And then I had a trip to Central America for Free Private Cities, checking some stuff out. And, they got me on the way back. I was on the plane, flying in from Central America, and everybody stands up. We land, go to the get out there, and everybody stands up like they do right when the plane's landed. We can take our seatbelts off. Everybody stand up and jockey for position, because
Sure.
We'll get outside 30 seconds faster than we would have.
Mm-hmm.
And the fellow that was running the head flight attendant person said, Mark Edgington, I need you to come to the front of the plane. Right.
Oh, and that's never good, right?
And, the door would have been opened and he was chatting with somebody out there. And I'm like, oh, I know what this is about. Well, so ladies and gentlemen, if you want to second guess my actions, what should I have done? Right? Everybody's standing. It's not like I'm going to run to the back of the plane or anything.
Yeah, I mean, you were cornered.
Yeah. So I was cornered, and I went to the front of the plane, and the guy said, "Are you Mark Edgington?" And I said, "I'm not answering questions today." And so he touched me with a piece of paper and, handed that piece of paper over, and I took the piece of paper, and that's that.
That is a good story. I like that. I'm not answering questions today.
Yeah, I like to give them the idea that I might answer questions tomorrow.
Right.
Tomorrow, I may answer your question, but not today.
It's a good libertarian. I mean, obviously, they served you the papers anyway. Presumably, how did they identify you as Mark Edgington? I guess they knew what you looked like, and who knows?
The flight attendant called me to the front of the plane, and I came. So
point.
there I am. I couldn't go to another seat because,
Yeah.
I mean, they would have come to my seat. I was in my seat.
It's really unfortunate that they started all of this with a lie. Deceit is never a good place to start anything.
You can't get the truth out of lies.
603-283-6160.
Free Talk Live, the show where anyone can call about whatever they want. And we do mean anyone.
He bought a radiation monitor on eBay for $10.
You got to be kidding me.
A Geiger counter?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, let's put some batteries in it and get it fired up. So we fired it up. We started walking
You guys
around.
know how to spend an evening.
Yeah,
Get a
right?
couple of beers and hang out with a Geiger counter.
We were making readings of 10 Roentgens outside the house.
What's that mean? Is that bad?
Yeah, it is.
Is that dangerous?
Yeah, it is.
Really?
Right.
Now, where's the life-threatening one?
100 Roentgens. I'm really concerned now because I've seen...
But you weren't concerned before you got the radiation meter out.
Right.
Now you're definitely going to get cancer, Harry. What's the detector going to do for you, though? Really? I mean, if you're going to die, you're going to die, right?
The guy that just called in about radiation, first of all, you got a Geiger counter off the internet.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Is spreading the message of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace around the globe worth $2 per month to you? As you may already know, in addition to our internet feed, LRN.FM broadcasts on free-to-air satellite across North and Central America, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. And we've been available on satellite for free 24/7 since 2010. The LRN.FM free-to-air satellite signal is reaching some of the most oppressive regimes in the world, and there's no doubt our ideas are making an impact. You can learn more about the channel's impact by watching the 3-minute video at fund.lrn.fm. If you'd like to help free minds globally with our ideas of liberty, cryptocurrency, and peace, you can donate as little as $2 per month via fund.lrn.fm. You can help us continue and expand our satellite broadcast to multiple continents. Visit fund.lrn.fm today, and thank you for your help. Don't forget to share the link on social media. That's fund.lrn.fm.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
The LRN.FM social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it.
Hi, I'm Derek J. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
It is Free Talk Live. Join us, take control of the airwaves, express your opinions, talk about whatever is on your mind. Because that's what we do here on Free Talk Live. We provide a platform for you to share your opinions on national radio on more than, or at least close to, I don't know the exact number, 200 radio stations across the United States, not to mention sub-Saharan Africa, Asia, and, on the internet in general, so worldwide. And if you value that, if you value the idea of being able to express your opinions, whatever your opinions are, even if we disagree with you, and we will disagree with you if we so happen to, then check out the AMP program. You can find out more about it at amp.freetalklive.com. It is money that is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. Noble SHT is tonight's amplifier, and we appreciate that amplification so much. As I said, it's $5 per month, and this money is used strictly to advertise, market, and promote Free Talk Live. Hence its name, the AMP program. It's the best way to help Free Talk Live grow to reach a larger audience. Check it out, amp.freetalklive.com. Noble SHT, thank you so much for listening and for supporting the show. So we're talking, before we got into the story about your subpoena, and I love that. I'm going to just start using that all the time now. It's just, I'm not answering questions today.
Yeah, but you're in the service sector, so you can't go up to your customers and be like, can you help me find where my pizza is? And you're like, I'm not answering questions today. Go back to your seat. That just doesn't work, so you have to be real careful how you use it.
In some contexts, no, but I mean, there are other contexts where I could use it.
I like the idea of only asking questions of law enforcement that's asking me questions.
I agree, and I'm curious. My attorney is ultimately going to want to put me on the stand in this federal case against me because I want to be on the stand. I think that's my best course of action here. But am I allowed to answer their questions with questions? Because
you are if they don't say anything about it.
Okay.
I don't think that once you're on the stand, I don't think that there's much getting away with it, right? Like you've sat on the stand, and now it's time to answer some questions.
And in theory, I would answer questions, but I would answer them not in a way that they were expecting.
Well, that's you certainly don't want to walk down the primrose path.
What is that?
The primrose. I don't exactly. Go ahead and look up what the primrose path is. But the primrose path is this notion that you begin walking down this delightful little path, and then boink, something hits you on the head, and perhaps you're robbed or whatever happens in the story that has to do with primrose paths. I don't know entirely, but that's the idea. Is you don't want to walk into the trap, whatever the trap is.
Makes sense.
And but it's difficult to know what that trap is, and that's why you don't answer the questions if you can avoid it. If you're on the stand during your own trial, there are a lot of people who believe you're guilty if you don't just take the stand. Period. End of story.
Right.
And
well, it humanizes you to the jury as well, and that's always a benefit. There's really no downside to that if you can be careful. But one of the issues I've seen in the liberty community, in particular lately, is that so many people just assume that they can be careful when talking to cops. Like they just assume that they know how to not reveal information, or they believe that, whether or not they assume it, I mean, they believe they know how to talk to a cop and not give out any information. And
That's
yet,
how Ian got convicted on his situation with his name change. Are you familiar with the story?
I am not.
Okay, well...
I know something happened and it was some clerical error somewhere, but I don't know how.
Sure. I was there for every step of it, so I'll go ahead and tell you. So there's this guy, he's a little smug, he does a libertarian radio program and has done it for, at that point, something like 15 years, telling people, don't talk to the cops.
Right.
Over and over, don't talk to the cops. So the cops come to the door, and he immediately rushes right out there, hammer and nails in hand, so that he can crucify himself to the nearest cross, right? And he...
That doesn't sound unlike Ian, I have to say.
And so the cops ask questions. They pick up some, they get the information they want. He has no idea what this is about, other than, like they're asking specifically about his name change. Well, it turns out...
Which is weird.
Some name, his name was changed. Then they wanted him to change his name because they wouldn't use his, his preferred name until he changed his name. So he goes through their process to change his name, and then they arrest him for it. Now, what you have to remember is that, they put in some paperwork, and then apparently they needed to redo something, and they couldn't redo it because his name was changed, and he didn't have documents for the new name, and he was basically stuck in a political limbo, right? His name, he both existed and didn't exist all at the same time. So their bureaucrat who's there helps him out with the paperwork and gets some stuff done, and everything's fine, and he's got the name change. Well, the cops find out about it in some manner or another, and they don't arrest the bureaucrat who was there every step of the way. They arrest Ian, and they run him through trial, and they find him guilty.
Wait. Why did they arrest him? What were the charges?
His paperwork was put in the wrong order. It was unsworn falsification is the... so he did not swear to tell the truth, and he did not tell the truth. So,
but he did tell the truth, right? It was a clerical error or something like that.
Look, I'm not here to litigate the case, but I will go ahead and say that it was, in fact, the truth, what they were saying, what the state was saying, that he, that he was involved in telling something that wasn't true, because his name was changed, but it wasn't changed all at once. Like, he was literally in a political limbo. There was nothing that could be done to undo this Gordian knot. He would have been a non-person for the rest of the life, had this bureaucrat not done what they did, and then the other bureaucrats come and arrest him for it. That's my claim is on this.
Okay.
So then, he gets found guilty, and I write a letter to the judge. Please let me come in as a character witness for this, because, Ian can't say anything that makes these people happy. They literally, in the sentencing that I was there for, I didn't go for any of this other stuff. I'm not wasting my time on Ian's shenanigans as far as I'm concerned. I'm sitting in there, and they literally asked for 6 months in jail for their paperwork snafu. This guy has to go to jail because we had a paperwork snafu, and you're going to 6 months for jail, right? And I said, look, Your Honor... He's like, could you tell everybody who you are? Oh, I thought I was notorious. My name is Mark Edgington. I am Ian's co-worker. I've worked with him for many years, and I probably know him better than anybody on the planet.
So I'm not answering questions today?
For better or for worse, no. Basically I said, look, this is going to be a hardship on my business if you send Ian to jail.
For 6 months.
For 6 months.
For a clerical error.
And I'd like to make a suggestion, if you would, Your Honor. Everything you've ever wanted to get out of Ian, you've gotten when he had a suspended sentence. So give him a suspended sentence. He doesn't go out. He doesn't mess around at all. He always does what he's advised to do. So you'll get what you want, and you won't have to pay the extra money for bologna sandwiches while he's in jail. And the judge loved it, gave him like 1 or 2 years or something suspended sentence, and Ian walked out of quote-unquote free man.
Now, what does that mean, suspended sentence?
A suspended sentence basically says you abide by this set of rules that we have. It's like probation almost.
Okay.
But there's no probation officer. You abide by this set of rules that we have for you, and if you don't, you get 2 years or whatever the suspended sentence is.
So presumably this is like don't get arrested and those sorts of rules?
Yeah. And I actually asked for a suspended sentence. I'm like, it makes my life easier because I don't have to deal with this bull crap when he's on suspended sentence. I played both sides. Honestly, I was glad. I was delighted at how it turned out, and I do appreciate the judge for this. And he actually, I met him up before I put the letter in. I'm like, how do I address this? And he's like, send a letter, and then you can be a character witness in the sentencing. So the judge actually set this up.
Okay.
I saw him at the gym and chatted with him about it, and he said as much as he could say without saying anything. Right?
Gotcha.
By the way, the Primrose Path.
Yes.
It's a life. It's an easy life of pleasure. That's not necessarily good for you.
Okay.
So
perhaps I had misinterpreted a little bit, but not terribly wrong.
No, and it's still something to consider when, taking the stand in your own defense. What are your thoughts? 603-283-6160. This is Free Talk Live.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. When you amp Free Talk Live, you get perks like access to the AMP-only Facebook group and AMP podcast. Visit amp.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com. I'm grateful to have heard from some of our satellite listeners recently. I appreciate knowing that people are out there who like what we do and are willing to support it financially. LRN.FM's free-to-air satellite feeds blanket most of 2 continents. It was my goal to put our channel there so people without internet could receive our programs and feed pirate radio stations. We started a fundraiser on Patreon a few years ago to back the satellite channels. I recently announced that I was considering canceling the feeds, and donations increased from 15% to 20% of our costs, which are around $1,000 per month. That's a good start, and to incentivize more contributions, the Shire Free Church will be matching every dollar. Can we reach $500 per month? With your help, we can. You can join our satellite fundraiser for just $2 a month at fund.lrn.fm. If we raise enough to keep both of the channels on the air, awesome. If we raise more, I'll add more channels. If not, we can shut them down and go internet only. It's up to you. Thank you for your support. fund.lrn.fm. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you're helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160 if you want to join the discussion. That's 603-283-6160. And front and center for all of us here at Free Talk Live are the Crypto Six. That's myself, Ian Freeman, Nobody, Andy and Renee Spinella, and Colleen Fordham, the 60-year-old grandmother. For those who somehow have missed all of this, like the guy on Twitch earlier who was asking, why are you in a new studio? How regularly do you listen to the show that you don't know the answer to that? Right?
Well, Free Talk Live's broadcast on nearly 200 radio stations across the country, and there are people tuning in all of the time that do not know. And this is one of the things about a radio program that's different than, say, a podcast, is that you need to be prepared for those new listeners. They could be 20% of the audience right now.
Well, this is a D-Live guy.
I know. I understand.
Sure.
Well, that's what you're saying, but I mean, there truly are a bunch of people who have no idea what you're talking about when you say Crypto 6.
Yeah, so the 6 people I just mentioned were raided and arrested on March the 16th of this year, coming up on the 3-month anniversary of that, in fact. All related to cryptocurrency and other white-collar crime nonsense. White-collar
things that people shouldn't have been held in jail for at all, and nobody's still there.
Well, there certainly was no justification for a raid. I mean, the indictment, when you break it down, it's essentially alleging operation of an unlicensed business. I don't think the feds normally, take out windows and fly in drones over such charges. I don't think the FBI even normally gets involved in those things. They just maybe show up at noon, knock on your door and say, hey, here's you need to deal with this, right?
If FinCEN had a problem, then they should have sent a letter or something.
That would have been nice. Yeah. So you can find out more about it at thecrypto6.com. There's an awesome video there that someone put together. I don't know who did it, but it's an awesome video. Check it out, thecrypto6.com. What's happening with us is going to affect cryptocurrency for a long time. It's already affected my world of cryptocurrency. Not having any access whatsoever to cryptocurrency it's crippling. When you've lived in New Hampshire for 2 years and you've just sort of
used cryptocurrency.
Yeah, because everywhere accepts it. Well, not everywhere, but a lot of places accept it. Like the convenience store next door that I was visiting every single day.
And
using
Free Talk Live,
at.
your job, it was the first media in the world to accept cryptocurrency for advertising, and we are thoroughly enmeshed in the cryptocurrency community.
Yes.
So in many cases, I'm like, Aria, order that mic compressor. And you're like, I can't, because I'd have to use the crypto, the church's crypto, and I don't have access to it. I can't do it. And that's, well, frankly, it's irritating as hell. And
it's a bit worse from my perspective.
I'm sure it is. But just as the boss who's like, get this done, you can't do it. Well, then, somebody who was supposed to be delegated the task, I now have to do it. And that's, irritating.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm not having any more fun with it than you are, but
I'm sure you're having less.
Hopefully, I talked with my attorney about the possibility of maybe making that particular restriction go away, considering, how...
And he didn't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Well, he was willing to. He just suggested to me that it might not be wise.
Yeah.
And in the end, I tended to agree with him.
Okay, so he made a case for it?
Yeah, and it's just better to just work around it.
Okay.
Hopefully one day. But yeah, check out thecrypto6.com because it's all related to cryptocurrency, and suddenly I can't use it. And Nobody, that's formerly Rich Paul, is still in jail. My attorney actually sent me the detention order today, which I hadn't seen yet because I hadn't been on Recap or Pacer or whatever. It's confusing to me why Rich Paul, on a line that he knows is being recorded and monitored, is saying such things. Well, I understand frustration.
Yeah, he waxes hyperbolic and he gets frustrated and these kinds of things. I basically, I don't know exactly what he said, but let's say he called for a revolution on the phone line, right? Not that he suggested he would participate in such a revolution, just that he called for it.
The actual text of what he said was in the detention order.
Okay. Yes, I saw it. I know that it's public record, but I could not quote it from memory. I can assure you of that.
I can't either. I remember the part where he said, it's time for the boogaloo or something to that
Which
effect.
is calling for a revolution.
Yes.
And in a much more socially unacceptable manner. So, yeah, he called for a revolution, and now they don't want to let him out on a white-collar crime. Even though, and his attorneys claim that he was extremely articulate in his hearing, but not good enough. Then again,
he's an articulate dude.
Oh yeah, he's my favorite hobo. So basically, the magistrate doesn't want to go out on a limb on this, and is always going to kick it up to a judge who has to go out on a limb. So I think that was expected.
The magistrate always wants to. The magistrate is always going to side with the government, right? That's why my attorney has put in the order or put in the motion to amend the bail conditions so that Ian and I can have contact related to the show, which, would be tremendously helpful for the continuance of Free Talk Live, which
is the job that they told both you and Ian that you must maintain. There's a court order that says you must maintain employment. And as the same as for Ian, and then they put every impediment possible in you maintaining that employment. If I could get a substitute for you and Ian right now, sorry to say, Aria, I truly would. But I don't have substitutes because you guys are so enmeshed and trained and these sorts of things. There's no way to do that. And, you can't, not only can you not communicate with Ian, you cannot command somebody to communicate to Ian. So I can't hire you an assistant that would then talk to Ian's assistant because communication through proxies is also not allowed.
Unless it was the probation office themselves who were making those communications.
That's true, but the probation office hasn't demonstrated that it has much interest in our concerns.
Well, that's not necessarily true.
But they're not rushing to get everything done.
Not at all. My probation officer responded very quickly, and she was 100% willing to direct my questions and my information to Ian's probation officer or supervisory officer. No.
Okay.
And Ian's supervisory officer evidently returned, no, I'm not relaying any messages. So my supervisory officer, as far as, being a probation officer effectively for someone who's not on probation, they're on pre-release, is as good as I could have hoped for.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what to do about any of this stuff as the person who's sort of left in charge, holding the bag, as it were.
Yeah. It's been challenging, but we've done what we could.
Yeah.
And that's all that can be said about it. As the caller mentioned earlier, he's glad to see Free Talk Live decentralizing and, modernizing and developing a second studio and possibly a third studio and all these other things. That's out of necessity. These options were always there.
Well, no, they were never there because Ian wouldn't allow that to happen.
But that was because
no studio can possibly exist outside of New Hampshire because no place outside of New Hampshire could possibly be free. Don't talk about anything bad about New Hampshire. If you suggest that there might be freedom someplace outside of New Hampshire, you are clearly a heretic. What kind of peace minister are you?
Yes, but okay, that aside,
loony.
The Amdusia studio was here in New Hampshire anyway.
That's true.
But it never would have been okay for me to broadcast.
There would have never been a point in doing it. Why would you use a studio? Why would you spend the money on and use a studio across town unless you expected to get raided by the FBI, which I don't think anybody really did.
I certainly didn't. It was quite jarring that morning at 6 a.m. after I had been asleep for about 2 hours.
Yeah, in your case, that's so, yes.
To be woken up in such a manner.
I often get up at 6.
I don't. I did that day, though. So we were talking prior to all that, prior to the discussion about the 6 libertarians here in New Hampshire who were targeted and arrested by the federal government. We were talking about this overarching scheme from this talking head, former CIA. Is that what you said?
Yeah, John Brennan. He was former CIA director. which is quoted here in an article from Jim Bovard on the Libertarian Institute's website. That's libertarianinstitute.org.
Saying that he knows for a fact that the Biden administration, with laser focus, is going to go after libertarians.
Yes.
2 months is that's laser focus.
Yeah, it basically, that's the case, is that the claim is out there, and it's by people who would know that the feds are coming for libertarians, and here on Free Talk Live, we appear to be showing that that is true.
And cryptocurrency.
Be sure to run up to New Hampshire now. Go to freestateproject.org and sign up.
It's a good time to, because there is strength in numbers, at the very least.
I don't know that I'd rush into this battlefield.
I would. I mean, that's what libertarians want, right?
Check out freeprivatecities.org, too.
It's Free Talk Live.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com. Some of you asked, and now we've delivered. LRN.FM's live Keene, New Hampshire studio shows are now streamed in HD on Twitch. Visit our channel at twitch.lrn.fm and give it a follow. If you have Amazon Prime, you get one free subscription on Twitch. If you use it on our channel, Twitch will give LRN.FM a monthly piece of your Prime subscription cost. So please watch, follow, share, and subscribe to twitch.lrn.fm. That's twitch.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
A somber milestone. I'm Lisa Lacera, Fox News. President Biden in Tulsa, Oklahoma, marking 100 years since the race massacre in the Greenwood section of the city, once known as Black Wall Street.
Hundreds of black residents were killed. Thousands of homes and businesses were burned.
For much too long, the history of what took place here was told in silence, cloaked in darkness.
But the president says we can't just learn what we want to know.
We should know the good, the bad, everything. That's what great nations do.
At the event, President Biden also announced proposals to build wealth in communities of color, including a $10 billion community revitalization fund.
Fox's Jared Halpern at the White House. One firefighter is dead, another wounded after a shooting at a small L.A. County fire station in the town of Agua Dulce. At the same time, a fire was reported at a home about 10 miles east of the shooting. This resident says he saw on TV what happened at the firehouse, and he heard the suspect might have come to a house near him.
Sheriff's helicopters flying very low overhead for quite a while. They said there was a body in the backyard.
Authorities have confirmed that a body was in the yard, but have not confirmed that identity. The largest meat company in the world forced to shut down some packing plants as it's the latest target of a ransomware attack. The company, JBS, is based in Brazil. White House Deputy Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says JBS told the administration the ransom demand came from a criminal organization, likely in Russia, and that the administration has been in touch with Russian authorities officials.
Delivering the message that responsible states do not harbor ransomware criminals.
JBS has several processing plants in the U.S., including in Texas and Colorado. Wall Street, the Dow gained 45. America is listening to Fox News.
Indeed is the job site that makes hiring as easy as 1, 2, 3. Post, screen, and interview. All on Indeed. Get your quality shortlist of candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description faster. Only pay for the candidates that meet must-have qualifications. According to Talent Nest, Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined. If you're hiring, you need Indeed. Get started right now with the free $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Fox. Indeed.com/Fox. Offer valid through June 30th. Terms and conditions apply.
Florida becomes the latest and most populated state to enact a law mandating student athletes play on teams according to gender at birth.
Athletes born male must play only on male scholastic and collegiate sports teams in Florida under a new law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis.
And we think it's important that they're able to compete on a level playing field. And, you've seen what's happened when you don't have that.
DeSantis signed the bill at the Trinity Christian Academy in Jacksonville. The law was supported by Florida Republicans, opposed by Democrats, and LGBT activist groups plan to sue, calling it discriminatory. In Broward County, Florida, Eben Brown, Fox News.
Workers in Tennessee have begun the process of removing the remains of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest and moving the former slave trader's body from Memphis to a museum hundreds of miles away. Forrest sold slaves in Memphis and served in the Confederate Army as a cavalry general. In April 1864, his troops attacked Fort Pillow in northwest Tennessee and killed 200 to 300 Union soldiers, most of them black. With the approval of Forrest's relatives, the Sons of Confederate Veterans is overseeing the move. A judge approved it late last year, ending a long legal battle. Another grocery chain is offering vaccine incentives.
Kroger is one of the latest companies offering a COVID vaccine incentive as it aims to help the Biden administration inoculate 70% of Americans with at least one dose by the 4th of July. Registration for the
Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
A local grandmother is beginning to realize that her family never even looked for a better nursing home. A man leaves a father-daughter dance with a different girl than he came with, and an earthquake late warning system goes off in Haiti. Watch as yet another precious fraction of your life passes mercilessly in front of your very eyes. This is the Onion Week in Review. Shortly after discovering he had locked himself outside of his suburban home Thursday, fully nude claims adjuster David Ronzo delivered a moving and thought-provoking treatise on the frailty of the human condition to a slowly gathering crowd of his neighbors. Ronzo, who initially panicked when he realized he was naked, soon turned and faced confused passersby and delivered a stirring oration on the grim facts of mortality, along with the indomitable nature of the human spirit. In other news, a man is arrested for stealing over $50,000 worth of beards from Hank Williams Jr. A pretty lady is playing hard to follow, and a dog named Murph lives up to his name. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the conversation, that's 603-283-6160. With you in the Omduzius studio tonight is Aria.
And Mark.
And Conan.
And I'm curious how much longer it's going to be before we're also joined by two cats, because I do have two cats here, and obviously they're terrified of people. They're rescues, so they have started in recent years warming up to people because we generally come up here and hang out after work on Sundays. But they respond a lot better to women than they do men. So I expect they will make an appearance on Wednesday nights, which is She Talk Live, before they will anyone else. And even then, if I'm not here, they're not going to bother with anyone out here. They're just going to hide.
And I got cat smell on me.
I don't think they'll mind that.
Well, if they're anything like my cats, which are also one of them, the oldest cat was a feral cat. I mean, when I say feral, I mean crazy. And it took many years to calm her down. But it's the same way when my parents come to visit in the summer, in the fall. They'll stay in the basement for 2 straight days.
Yeah.
And they're like, I thought you had cats. Oh, I do. They're just not coming up until they feel safe. And last year when they came to visit, it was about 10, 12 hours, and they finally moseyed on up, and it was like nothing happened. It's like, oh yeah, this is part of the family. We're cool. We're chill. But yeah, it's something, and it's one of the reasons I like cats.
Yeah, they're not as eager to trust as dogs.
Yes.
If I had a dog, he or she would be out here. We'd have a camera on them, and it would be the enthusiast studio beast, just like Jazzy used to be, right? But cats, they're not going to sit in a bed and let a camera be on them.
No, it's not going to work the same way.
Unless maybe you tie a ball to it or something. And
that's not a bad idea. They do love catnip.
Or a little catnip. By the way, I'm growing it this year, too, so I'm going to have an abundance of it.
Okay, awesome. I also have a laser pointer that if I even pick it up, I promise you, it would get them down here. And then they would be very mad at me for the rest of the night for, tricking them into coming out here while there were other people here they didn't know.
But they will come.
Here are 2 things to get the one cat who is not in the room presently to come in the room immediately. Number 1, walk in the kitchen and reach up and grab the can opener.
Oh, see, mine are all the flip-top ones. So if
they hear that sound too?
If they hear that sound, they come running.
Can opener is one of them. They come running. And the other one is, if I start to pet and scratch and cuddle the one cat unchaperoned, the other one will come running. I don't know how they sense it from halfway across the house.
They do that.
But they know that someone is getting some pettings, and they're not, and they come a-running.
They absolutely do. So you have a cat-related story. Or several cat-related stories, actually.
Well, actually, first I want to open it up with the rats, the mice problem, the mice plague that is currently afflicting Australia. So here in the States, we are experiencing the cicada coming of the cicada, Brood X. And I was looking at the map today, and I'm like, I wonder if we're going to get any of these things, because growing up in Florida, it was a regular mainstay. It was, you walk outside any time of the day, and they're just going to town. You can hear them making that crazy noise. It's just you can't mistake it for anything else.
Yeah.
You know what a cicada is. I always used to call them, after reading Stephen King's The Langoliers.
Okay.
I rechristened them the Langoliers, and no one ever understood what I was talking about.
Yeah, I don't think I understand what you're talking about. I may have even read the story and still don't understand because, I read it 30 years ago.
Well, basically, you had these creatures off in the distance who were eating time, and they made this whining, crazy machine noise.
Okay.
And I've always thought that it might sound something like a cicada.
They certainly do make a whining, crazy machines noise.
So we're dealing with cicada.
Right.
Australia is dealing with a mouse plague. Swarms of mice are infesting rural towns in Australia after its bumper grain harvest and destroying crops as the country continues to battle its out-of-control rodent plague. Residents in New South Wales and southern Queensland have seen an explosion of mouse in recent months, with the rodents invading homes, fields, and grain silos, and some of the residents spotting the rodents in their water supplies. And if you watch the videos that are out there of this current plague, them going out at night, and it looks like there's water flowing over the surface of the ground. And if you look a little closer, it's running, stampeding mice bodies.
I have not seen any of this.
Now, growing up...
by the way, before we go any further with this is one of the reasons that I just think veganism is absolutely insane. Okay? Forget whether or not you should consume as much meat as American diet does, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. No, we shouldn't. If we cut our meat consumption in this country by 3/4, we'd still get plenty in our diets. I'm not talking about the weightlifters. They can figure it out with whey protein or whatever the situation is. But the idea that it is immoral to kill an animal, while it may be defensible from a rhetorical standpoint, is absolutely indefensible from a practical standpoint. If you suddenly, for 1 year, stop killing rats, mice, deer, pigs, and these animals are free in the environment, and this is just the ones I've come up with. There's probably several more that are out there. That, my God.
I'm not sure I agree.
We wouldn't have anything left.
Because a lot of the things that we kill the other things that we would otherwise have to kill.
What do mice kill? What do rats kill?
I don't know.
What do pigs kill?
But cats kill rats.
Sure, cats was not on my list of things that we have to kill in order to survive on this planet. Mice, rats, pigs, and deer certainly are.
Deer is a big one, and feral wild pigs, especially down in the south.
I mean,
there's a reason why they fly around in helicopters, popping these guys with AKs,
right? Because
ARs.
The food supply will collapse in the face of unregulated mice, deer, pigs, rats, and these sorts of things. Collapse. There just won't be one.
But you know what the next step is, Mark? Because they don't want us eating any of those things. They don't want us eating pig, cow, chicken. The next step, of course, is cicada.
Eating the insects?
And I'm not even joking. They want us to live off of cricket flour.
Well, yeah, I think that's true, and I don't think that there's the worst thing in the world is introducing more insect-based food into our diet. I'm not against any of those things.
I'm not against it if I don't know about it.
Well, like we spoke a couple of weeks ago, there is so much bug parts in the food that you're already eating that we're getting a good little bit already.
But
just naturally.
If I go to a restaurant and I buy a sandwich, if they make the bread out of cricket flour or whatever, and it tastes indistinguishable from regular bread, I'm fine with that. I just don't want to know about it.
I actually wouldn't mind all that much. I eat a lot of different things, and I know that if it really gets nitty and gritty, of course I'm going to be eating cicadas. I have no problem with that. But when people tell me that you must eat the cicada to save the planet because the cow farts are destroying the planet, then I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, your science is stupid.
So what I would say, Ari, is that crickets can be raised in a more sterile environment than, say, a pig can. Pigs cannot be raised in a sterile environment. They're just, by their nature, not sterile. I will say this about a pig.
You might even say they're pigs.
Yes, they're filthy as pigs. What I would say about them, though, is if God intended us to eat a meat, he intended us to eat pigs. I used to raise them. They go from the tiniest little puppy, the littlest thing, to 285 pounds in 8 months. In one season, you have enough meat to feed a family for close to a year, if not, a pioneer family that would take their meat a little more seriously. I mean, if you're just talking about the American diet, then we're going to consume it much more quickly than that. But yeah, I mean,
I agree with that, except it depends on what they were eating. If you were feeding them grain that the humans could have been eating, then I will have to argue that no, it is not the perfect meat source. When you consider 40 pounds of grain to produce 1 pound of meat, it doesn't make sense. Now, if it's and not a wild hog, but if it's a hog that's free grazing, yes, absolutely, I agree with you. But they tear the land up bad.
In my case, I was just getting waste food.
Absolutely,
and feeding them.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
What do you think? Would you eat the crickets or the cicadas? 603-283-6160. And if you would you want to know about it?
A newly recruited search and rescue officer, Marshall Hunter was resigned to a life of rescuing wayward spacefarers and derelict satellites. But when a billionaire couple goes missing, his own ship is disabled during the rescue. With communication satellites suddenly failing and lunar mineral shipments disappearing in transit, the crew suspects it's more than a coincidence, and Hunter must choose between salvation and sacrifice to save his crewmates and their civilian charges. Frontier by Patrick Childs and BingBooks.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
This is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends. I've run websites since 1996 and have used over a dozen web hosts in that time. AgristHosting.com is the only one that hasn't broken my heart. Agrist Hosting's uptime and service is stellar, and their DDoS mitigation is the best I've seen. That's important because if you tell the truth in this world, you'll ruffle feathers. And some people will try dirty tricks to silence your voice. No matter what the haters hit us with, Agrist Hosting keeps our websites online. If you have a mission-critical commercial presence or a world-changing activism site, you cannot tolerate any skullduggery. So go with agristhosting.com. Have a WordPress or blog site, but you're not satisfied with performance or uptime? Or just want raw hosting? Want to pay with Bitcoin? Agrist Hosting specializes in high-performance hosting with personalized service. Go to agristhosting.com and click on the button that says Get Hosted. That's agristhosting.com.
The LRN.FM's social media channels have been revamped. We've eliminated Facebook and focused on other platforms like Twitter and Mastodon, the decentralized alternative to Twitter. On our accounts, you'll find posts from multiple LRN.FM show hosts together in one place. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm, or better yet, move to the decentralized Mastodon social media platform at toot.lrn.fm, toot.lrn.fm. I think you'll like it. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the conversation, you're more than welcome to 603-283-6160. We've been talking about eating cicadas for some reason, but before that we were talking about, just food in general. Evidently, Australia had a very successful grain crop, which of course created rats. So of course, they need a bunch of cats, which of course is going to create a bunch of cat feces in the streets, which of course is going to require a new government department that goes out and just cleans up cat feces in the street, which of course is going to require a new tax, which of course is going to devalue the Australian currency.
This is how it works. We have a one government agency creating another government agency to pick up the slack from the first. This is typically how it works. And you forgot already they have an agency that picks up the dead mouse bodies.
Oh, yep. Also an issue because the cats don't generally eat the whole mouse or the whole rat. They just sort of kill it.
Well, that's the
Chew the head
problem.
off.
That's actually the problem, and we're getting to that. But right now, to really get an idea of what the Aussies are dealing with this mouse situation, like I said, it looks like the ground is moving. There's so many. It looks like running water on the surface. You have stores, grocery stores, who are afraid to go into work the next morning because they know they've got 500 mouse bodies in all the traps that were set the previous day, and they've got to do something with these bodies. You've got mouses living in the walls. Mice. They're living in the furniture. You've got the smell. I don't know if you've
What
ever.
would you suggest? That they get chickens? Would chickens eat the mouse corpses for them?
Well, I feed chipmunks to my chickens, and they love them. However, every time I catch a rat, I bury him. I don't play around with that type of rodent. I'll feed chipmunks and squirrels to my chickens, but I don't play around with the big
as
fat
it happens,
rats.
I learned a number of years ago watching this documentary that rats aren't inherently, disease carrying and unclean or anything like that. It's only when they're forced to live in sewers and stuff like that they become unclean.
In crowded conditions.
But there are tipples in India where they will have rats eating out of their mouths, and none of them ever contract diseases from it. And the rats crawl over them. They're essentially tame pet rats.
The rats that I'm finding in my coop and out in the woods are probably good to go. But I'm just not even playing around. It's not that important to me to save that little bit of meat. To
turn that into calories.
Exactly. Which is basically what I'm trying to do is be as cheap as possible, be as frugal as possible. But yeah, there is an obvious problem going on, and I want to cover what this article thinks the issue is. Experts claim the plague is due to the recent heavy summer rains across eastern Australia, which hit the country earlier after years of drought. And I agree with that. You have a bumper crop.
Yeah.
Now you've got corn and grain and all kinds of product all over the place. Of course, it's going to cover. It's going to encourage rodent life.
I raised pigs for years, and there's no way to have stored carbohydrate products and not have rodents.
5-gallon buckets with airtight lids. So it's only going to do. And you know what? Rats can chew through plastic too. So I mean, if they even sense that there might be some food in there, yeah, you're right. It's hard to keep a rat out of things.
Well, I'll tell you, you can get a cat that'll kill mice, pretty good, and there's lots of them that'll do it, and God bless their little souls. But you can't find very many that can take out a rat.
And you can't. But on the subject of mice, I mean, cats are just tremendously helpful just for that purpose alone. Like when I moved here, there were mice here in this house. Within a period of about 3 months, that problem was taken care of, and I have not seen a mouse since.
Good. Well, here's where I think their problem is. I don't think it had anything to do with I think it had a little bit to do with the bumper crop, but here's their real problem. Another article from CNN. They're cute, they're fluffy, and they're public enemy number 1 in Australia. Australia is at war with feral cats.
See, this is where they screwed up.
By 2020, the government wants to kill 2 million free-roaming cats, a large chunk of the total feral cat population, which is estimated to be between 2 and 6 million. And by the way, this was published April 2019.
Did they do it? Because if so, I would expect the Australian people to be carrying pitchforks and torches to their government.
Except guess what? No one is covering this. They're blaming it on the rains. They're blaming it on government not being taking care of the people. This article, talking about all the cats being killed last year, it's not being covered.
My bias is that the American people largely think what they're told to think, and that the Australian people are 3 times worse. That's my bias.
I think they're probably as bad as Americans. But yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, if we had this happen today here in the United States, it would be all about the rats, right? And there would be no attempt from the media to say, hey, what actually created this problem? It's easy to say, oh, well, there's just a lot of food now. Okay, sure. But a lot of food isn't going to create a bunch of rats, right? They have to breed, and that takes time.
And if you take out their apex predator.
Yeah, so what happened last year that could have given these rats time to breed to this degree that now suddenly they're swarming for all of the food?
Correct.
And the answer to that is obvious if the Australian government actually went through with this horrific immoral, inhumane, insane, evil plan to kill 2 million cats.
Well, here's the problem, because it's not just government that came up with this idea, and it didn't just happen last year. This is something that's been plaguing Aussies for a good long time, and that is cats eat other things too.
Yeah,
and
songbirds,
spiders, wasps.
Well, everybody
Birds.
hates it when they kill the songbirds.
Birds.
And it's true that cats do kill a lot of songbirds.
Oh no!
In the case of my outdoor cat, who was always a great a great mouser, I have never seen one lick of evidence that cat has ever killed a songbird. I'm not saying it hasn't, but I haven't seen that it's ever killed a bird, period. I've seen a lot of evidence, however, that it's killed, mice and moles and voles and a variety of other rodents. So I tend to think that they kind of specialize one way or the other, but, whatever.
My cats eat a lot of insects. Like, occasionally, a wasp will just get inside, and I never have to worry
Drives
about
them
it.
nuts.
Yeah, I never have to worry about it finding its way to me, because the cats will immediately find it, and they will stay on it until they manage to kill it.
Mommy's little killers.
And the same is true of spiders and all sorts of other little things that I don't want to kill, and I wouldn't kill, but I also don't want to share a residence with them. And evidently, neither do my cats. And I appreciate them for that.
Yeah.
So this article goes on to explain that cats were probably introduced in the 17th century, and it's quite possible that they have actually driven 20 mammals to extinction.
I mean, cats are vicious little predators.
During that time, and so of course you're gonna have you're gonna have all the greenies coming out, and especially the ones who like the songbirds.
Yeah, but
and
this
they're
is
like,
also
we have
a
to
problem.
do something about this.
This is a problem that people created by introducing a foreign species to an environment that it didn't evolve in.
Yeah, and my big question is, what was happening in the 1600s? Did they also have rat issues? Or because here's the thing. Here's what I know about agriculturalists, and trying to get by and grow more than their land can produce. You're going to get rats. So I mean, what is the other option? You're gonna put down poison, because guess what happens? The rats eat the poison, and something eats the rat, and then they die. So you create a big old problem.
Carl Watner, longtime proponent of a voluntary society, died last December. You may have seen his articles published on his website, voluntarist.com, in his newsletter, The Voluntarist, the Mises Institute, or elsewhere over the last 40 years. His newest book, I Must Speak Out, Volume 2, The Best of the Voluntarist, is now available via Liberty Under Attack Publications. This 430-page second volume spans the years of 2000 through 2020 and includes articles by Carl Watner, Hans Hermann Hoppe, Carl Hess, Benjamin Tucker, George H. Smith, Lysander Spooner, Pete Eyre, Joyce Brand, and many others. I Must Speak Out is for the newly initiated, the veteran voluntarist, or anywhere in between. Buy the book now at libertyunderattack.com/voluntarist. For more great content on building a voluntary society and for Carl's extensive archives, check out voluntarist.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
Are you a cryptocurrency advocate? The Crypto Tip is the ideal outreach tool to help new people discover cryptocurrency. It's a printable business card-sized tip that you can give to service providers, preferably in addition to a good cash tip. When the server scans the QR code, it'll bring up an explanation of cryptocurrency, how to install a wallet, and allow them to claim the tip. If they don't claim the crypto, you get your tip refunded to you after a time period you specify. Plus, if they do claim the tip, you get an email alert. Create as many tips as you want at cryptotip.org. That's cryptotip.org. There are lots of ways to listen to Free Talk Live. Our podcast has been around since podcasts began, and now the FTL feed is loaded with content besides our full show archives. Did you know that we make it easy for you to customize your podcast subscriptions? We have different feeds, one that includes only our full shows, one with just the Daily Digest, and our main feed that includes everything. You decide what you listen to. It's quick and easy to customize your feeds at feeds.freetalklive.com. That's feeds.freetalklive.com.
On March 16th of this year, a joint government task force raided the New Hampshire Bitcoin Embassy, the Mighty Moose Mart, the homes of Aria DiMezzo, Andy and Renee Spinella, Colleen Fordham, a grandmother, and perhaps most relevant, the studios of Free Talk Live. The Crypto Six were arrested, most were released, but Rich Paul, also known as Nobody, and Ian Freeman both remain in custody. We've been in contact with attorneys that say no crime even appears to have been committed, but that didn't stop the Joint Thug Task Force from ripping out wires from the back of our broadcast stacks, taking Free Talk Live off the air, violating our and your First Amendment rights. You can go to thecrypto6.com and donate to fight against these charges, but as importantly, contact media and tell them about this outrage. This case is likely to set precedent for the use of cryptocurrency well into the future. Help our fight for liberty and financial freedom at thecrypto6.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
It's Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160. If you want to join the discussion, you are more than welcome to. That's 603-283-6160. With you in the studio tonight, of course, it's Aria.
And Mark.
And Conan.
And we've been talking about cats, realistically, and the overabundance of food that Australia suddenly has that is being devoured by these rats that just suddenly appeared, it would seem. And the reason they suddenly appeared was because last year, in 2020, the Australian government had this brilliant plan to exterminate 2 million cats.
You certainly are passionate about cats.
And this isn't just, like I said, this isn't just last year. This is an ongoing war on cats for many, probably decades. You have the conservationists out there who want they want just nature to be nice and green and beautiful, and the songbirds doing their thing. And what they don't realize, especially, and it really hurts me coming from a lot of these people who spend a lot of their time in the wild. Nature isn't all of that. It's pretty nasty at times. It's pretty wild. It gets aggressive. It's nasty.
And to presume that you know what nature's going to do is always a bad idea. So I'm going to argue both sides of this. A, if you've got feral cats around your house and you decide the best solution for you in your life is to start popping them with a .22, I don't particularly have a problem with that. That's you managing wildlife on your property.
Just make sure it's feral and not has a collar on its neck and it's the neighbor's cat, because otherwise you're not going to hear the end of that.
That's a whole different story. And don't send your cat outside without a collar. Is another thing I would say. But usually, if you're seeing a fat cat, there's a good chance that cat belongs to somebody.
If it's missing an ear and it's got it looks like patchwork cat, it's probably feral.
But I will also say this. Let's not forget that the plague that wiped out 1/3 of Europe was caused by people that zealously believed that cats were of the devil, and they went on a crusade to kill cats. What happened was they killed the cats, so the rats bred. The rats had the fleas that carried the plague. Yep. They bit the people, and 1/3 of Europe died. This has been done before, ladies and gentlemen. let's stop with the cat killing, the societal level cat killing.
Yeah, let's think how this worked. This is one of the first animals that self-domesticated itself, which, by the way, is very curious because around the same time we were humans forcefully domesticating dogs as well as cattle and other things. But the cat, he's just like, hey, you know what? I could do this.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, because what am I growing? I'm growing corn. I'm growing wheat. I got all this product. And what is it attracted? It's attracted rats, and the cats are like, I can handle this. I can do this.
I'm not sure cats actually are domesticated. I think they just hang out.
And I would agree with that.
I've been bit enough times. I'm not sure that they're entirely domesticated.
Before we get further into
they
this,
like pettins.
We've got two callers on the line, so I want to get to them. The first one, David from New Mexico. David, you're on Free Talk Live.
Well, conditions of release. So just about from my experience, just about any wild animal will become domesticated or semi-domesticated. I mean, I just had ground squirrels in here on my lap eating crackers, and the bunny rabbits are eating nachos out on the porch, and they come around and ask me for them. So I think just about any, and there's a long history of that. The deer will do this. I mean, every animal will, even the predators like lions and Anyway, so conditions of release.
I'm not sure about wolves.
I brought that up.
If I had to make a list of things that simply will not be, domesticated,
when you consider, and here, as I understand it, here's the best way to tell the difference between a wolf and a dog. If you trap a dog, it'll just stay there trapped and it will die. A wolf will chew its leg off to get away. That's the biggest difference. And so I don't know that, like you said, Mark, I don't think you can domesticate a dog. It's going to a wolf. Except through many, many generations of trial and error and natural selection. Go ahead, Dave.
I wasn't talking about forcefully anyway. I was talking about it's a voluntary relationship. They come around because they want to come around. But the conditions of release. So now you're dealing with it. I remember calling into your program in instances where I dealt with it on just stupid misdemeanor stuff. And I remember being and there's a basic question here, but I want to give you the pretext first. In one situation, it was a misdemeanor situation. I don't remember what it was for. And a judge in the arraignment or whatever, and this is in the courtroom, says, okay, so sign this. These are your conditions of release. And I'm like, well, just a minute. We didn't review that. We didn't discuss this in the courtroom. For instance, like, what's this no alcohol stuff? What you're accusing me of? There was no alcohol involved whatsoever in whatever this was. And like I said, I don't remember what it was. So why is this on here? I'm not signing this. And I said it firmly, and I would have pursued the issue had the judge not immediately yielded and said, oh, okay, I'll take those off. So which leads to the question as what is the authority, and I mean the absolute final legal authority on conditions of release? Like if you are, for instance, in the misdemeanor situation where there was no alcohol involved whatsoever and it was not a crime of violence, it was just whatever it was, I don't even remember. But, so what is this no alcohol thing? No going into establishments that serve alcohol. What the hell is this doing on here in this circumstance? It doesn't pertain whatsoever. It's, as the legal term goes, it's arbitrary and capricious and an abuse of discretion on your part, Your Honor. So get it the hell off of there. Otherwise, we can fight it out in a courtroom as per my motion.
Is there a question?
You guys
here?
know.
Yeah, there's always the.
You know what? Every time that somebody is talking like this, there are many questions in there, and you can pull them out yourself. But if you can't pull them out yourself, I'll tell them to you. And I already told it to you already in this discussion. I said, "What is the ultimate final?"
Mark, you were saying.
God, you are not a fan of David, are you?
When he starts ranting like that and not letting anyone speak, what is the ultimate?
It's Free Talk Live. I guess he can call it.
What is the ultimate authority? It's very simple. They will arrest you and hold you until you submit.
What I'll say is that they, they'll often pull that alcohol prohibition thing. In fact, they did in your case, Aria. They never even mentioned it, but they never let you keep a gun. Never. Like the first thing, and always when it comes to bail conditions, no gun for you. And there's a reason that people want to have guns, to protect themselves. So you're saying that I'm on a bond, I don't get to protect myself? It's kind of an interesting question.
It is, and I'm under those conditions. I'm not allowed to have a weapon. In fact, I was at the
No weapon at all?
No.
You can't carry a knife?
No. No. I can, but the blade has to be no longer than 2 inches. Basically, standard felon restrictions.
I've got one that I'd like to show you and talk to you about. Go ahead.
And that clearly is allowed because that blade is within 2 inches. Otherwise, I would have to ask you to take it outside because we're on camera and it would be a violation.
No. You can't be in possession.
No. I can't be in the same room with it.
I don't think that's the case.
It is the case. My supervisor officer told me this directly.
All right.
I can't be in possession of it. Like if I'm in someone's living room and they happen to have a firearm just mounted above their fireplace or whatever, that's a violation of my conditions.
So that's active possession versus there's questions of active possession there. But if somebody's carrying a gun on their hip, then you'll never be in active possession of it. It's a legal term. Anyway, go ahead with David, please.
David, are you still with us?
Yeah, I've been saying hello, and there you are. You're finally back. Okay. So anyway, the you didn't understand by my listening intently to what you said. You didn't understand what I had said because I had already answered your question, and I asked you, do you know? And the implication is if you don't know, you should probably ask your attorney to find out if you're interested. Conditions of release, where is, because you can't just pull them out of your FCC ass. You have, yeah, and there's the music. So
anyway, thanks for the call tonight, David. This isn't a misdemeanor. I want to remind people of this. This is a felony before the federal government. You want me to go in there and demand the federal judge explain to me his jurisdiction, his legal authority? No thanks. You put your ass on the line if you want to try that nonsense.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 28th through July 4th for ForkFest 2021 at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. ForkFest happens the week after the Porcupine Freedom Festival, and ForkFest is decentralized, which means no one is in charge. That also means there's no ticket cost. Just reserve your camping, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 28th through July 4th. Where better to celebrate Independence Day than around other freedom-loving activists in the Shire? You can relax and enjoy the camaraderie of like-minded people, or you can create whatever experience or event you'd like others to have. If you're planning an event for ForkFest, be sure to let others know in advance. You can connect with fellow ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum. Links to those are on the unofficial website, forkfest.party. Mark your calendar for June 28th through July 4th, 2021. We'll see you at forkfest.party.
Breaking weather news. Belize is sunny and around 82 degrees every day this week.
What's the forecast for your life? If current politics and economic prospects are cramping your freedom, escape to the tropics. ECI Development has affordable second homes for you to own or rent in Belize and other tropical countries. Places with stable governments and growing economies. Secure your freedom now. To find out more, send an email to ftl@ecidevelopment.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Sony released this week the Nasal HD 340s, a brand new pair of high-quality nose buds designed to let users blast different scents into their nostrils throughout the day. The Onion let consumers across the nation sound off about their excitement for the new product.
I've always got them in my nose. At work, at the gym, on the bus, wherever. These days, I can't stop smelling tennis ball.
Retailing for $49.99, the nose buds accompany the launch of Sony's new online odor store, which sells over 22,000 different smells for download and immediate inhalation. Still, not everyone is quite as enthusiastic about the new product.
These things suck. I mean, a lot of times it only works out of the right nostril. The other day I tried smelling picnic table. It smelled more like hardwood floor. And also, to be honest, I have a really hard time breathing with these things on.
This is the Onion News Network.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Are you tired of your taxes funding endless occupations around the world? Antiwar.com is run by people who understand that wars abroad become wars at home, wars on our freedoms. Antiwar.com is dedicated to bringing you the latest in news, views, interviews, and reviews from the top movers and shakers in the anti-occupation movement. Antiwar.com has it all, from thorough foreign policy analysis to interviews with whistleblowers who used to run the military-industrial complex. Anti-war, pro-free market. That's antiwar.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
It is Free Talk Live. I'm not going to give out the number again. I mean, we do have someone actually there at the studio screening calls and stuff, but I'm not sure if they're actually sitting there constantly. So, I mean, final segment, and we've got plenty to discuss anyway. Among those things is cats. Now, Mark, you had said that you're okay with the possibility of, someone killing feral cats that are on their property. I am not okay with that.
Okay, tell me why.
Because they're cats.
All right, I understand here.
That's pretty much the extent of it. I would say the same about dogs, to be fair, and probably rabbits and other miscellaneous creatures. I mean, there's a family of groundhogs that made their home out under the shed out here that I don't have any objection to. I mean, they're just peacefully coexisting with me. I understand that a feral cat may not be peacefully coexisting with you, though.
Yeah,
so, in that case...
precisely know what a cat is going to do other than, say, harm your cat.
Sure.
Or harm your dog, for that matter. I mean, a mean cat is got the jump on any nice dog.
They will kill your chickens.
Well,
in a
sure.
heartbeat. I had yesterday, the neighbors let their cat out for the first time. I had never seen this cat before, and this son of a gun was stalking my chickens. Now, I don't know if he could have done anything. I have a sizable rooster in there.
He could with a pullet, though. A smaller chicken that was there.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Chick?
And here's the thing. I actually had a big old tote. I have every generation in totes with sawdust on the bottom. I had actually taken one with about 15 chickens, babies in it, chicks. And they're just sitting out there on my back porch. Now, if this guy had wised up, and I think he was actually tracking them at first until he started getting a sense of me walking around, and he took his business to the back of the yard and went after the big girls, but he was in total attack mode.
Yeah.
And I had to go walk over there and talk to him. But so this I would never want to do it, but this is just like pigs. This is like feral pigs. This is just like the deer population. We as the husbandry, the
people that are in charge of the animals.
We are in charge of the world.
Yeah.
And if we are going to grow crops, it's going to attract mice. And we need cats to take care of them. But you know what? There's going to come a time when there's too many cats. And if they don't get enough food, they're going to go after things that are important to you. And just like the deer population, if you have too many of them, guess what? They get sick. They get nasty diseases, and then they start spreading it amongst themselves. And before you know, you have a plague. So I think it's our responsibility. We have to go out there and clunk one on the head every now and then.
Well, long term,
or a bucket of water.
Long term, there are solutions to the feral cat problem. That would be for people to spay and neuter their cats.
But
long term,
a spayed or neutered cat can kill chickens too. And if your neighbor's cat is killing your chickens, first you talk to the neighbor. Maybe you talk to the neighbor twice or three times. But at some point or another, the only solution is to protect your chickens.
And you are perfectly within the law to do so.
Yeah, most of the crime calls, most of the reasons for a cop in rural America is dog or cat calls. Dog calls basically is what we call them, pet calls. So I'd like to say, having been a pig farmer and thus talking to more pig farmers than the average person does, I've heard some stories about things that pig farmers have done in the past, like keeping cats in order to keep rodents down. And many of them have come to the conclusion, this is shocking, Arya, and I just want you to be prepared for it, kept cats with the intention of keeping rodent populations down. But they didn't want too many cats. And the best mousers are pregnant female cats. So they would keep...
I don't want to hear the rest of the story, I don't think.
Well, let's just say some kittens end up in bags.
Yeah, see, I didn't want to hear the rest of the story, Mark.
And I think this, to me, I just don't simply have the sensibilities for this kind of thing. But I kind of understand the utilitarian aspect of it. Like, it seems wrong to me, but, I can see how somebody has just a different relationship to death than I do. To me, if you're going to have kittens, give them away to people that are going to love them. But
yes,
that would be.
I would agree with that.
My statement on the topic.
But, and you brought up a good point. The neutering and spaying in this country is so, I think, out of control. To such an extent that
you think people aren't doing it, or they are doing it.
It's too much.
Okay.
I can't. It's hard to get your hands on a good cat these days. You can go to and the only place you can get them is to go to the pound. And then here in New Hampshire, it's an ungodly amount. I think they want, after everything is done and paid for, they want like $400 for like an old cat that's probably got another couple years left in it. And it's like, no, man, I want a kitten that's going to stay with me for the next 20 years. But no, and that I don't have to pay for, because back in my day, the neighbor had a cat with kittens, and it's like, hey, we have some kittens, come get some. And you're like, all right, I'll take that one right there in the middle, and it's done. Nowadays, that's non-existent.
That's often how it was in Mississippi as well. It's like, hey, I want a kitten. Hey, my neighbor's friend has a kitten. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go pay them a visit.
And you can't even. I know there's some social media. Facebook is a prime example. You can't even advertise that you have free cats.
Why not?
For what? I don't even know for what reason. You definitely can't sell them.
Oh, because they're worried that you're running a puppy
cat mill. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what the profit margin is on $25 cats. I don't know. And another thing about puppy mills is everybody thinks every single breeder in the country, or even half of them, or even some large percentage of them, is a puppy mill. This is crazy. Like, a puppy mill, we need to have a distinction as to what this term means, or it's just like running around calling every woman a hoe. Right? This makes no sense.
Anybody who has more than two breeders, a male and a female, and is selling more than, 10 puppies a year is a puppy mill in this country.
I would suggest that it's the industrialization of puppy breeding, in the same way that Tyson is running a chicken mill, right? They've industrialized it to the extent that it's inhumane, it's overcrowded.
But the inhumanity is what I see on it. Is the people make a presumption about inhumanity when it comes to dog breeders. My mother bred dogs, and I looked after Rottweiler puppies quite a bit in my youth. And I can tell you those puppies were taken great care of. I have a couple of rescue Dobermans right now because those are the breeds my mom likes. And these animals, like there are breeders that take bad care of animals.
Yep, you always hear about them in the news because people are more fearful of people beating on dogs than they are of some kid getting picked up at the bus stop.
That's probably true
in this country, anyways.
Well, at least there's. But I'll say this: is a lot of dogs are in the pound, especially no-kill shelters, because they're awful. Right,
Yep.
Like some percentage of animals need to be culled, in my opinion. If you want, let's say we want certain things from dogs, like, I don't know, good behavior, not to bite the face of our children. Perhaps
pee all over
be
the
nice
place.
to us, whatever it is. There's some behaviors that is considered unacceptable when it comes to a dog, and that nobody's going to want. Like dogs that bite kids in the face, bad. Dogs that guard food, bad. Like these kind of behaviors. And sometimes you simply cannot break a dog of these particular habits. And I know people would love to believe that dogs are all trained to do things, but some are just They've got personalities. All you have to do is have a litter of puppies to see that that's true.
Especially when you consider how many inbred dogs we have in our culture. You have dogs that just been bred with their mom too many times.
And many times when it comes to a shelter dog, you have no idea what the history of this is.
Yeah.
And I got a cat from a shelter, and he had behavioral problems. We dealt with it for a very long time, and the cat, died in old age. But not everybody would have, and that shelter set that cat up to be, put down because it should have been. End of story. It had behavioral problems, and it should have been put down. And a dog with worse behavioral problems that harms a kid, I'm just saying.
It would help if,
5% of animals should be culled.
If shelters were more upfront about the behavioral problems.
They don't
of
know.
cats.
Somebody turned this cat in because it had a behavioral problem. The shelter didn't have a way of knowing that it had this behavioral problem. The cat pooped on pillows.
Speaking of shelters, Chicago has a rat problem as well. Guess what they're doing, Arya?
Killing cats?
Actually, some central planner figured it out. They learned from Australia's issue where they're killing cats, and instead, Chicago central planners are releasing 1,000 feral cats, or shelter cats, spayed and neutered.
Yeah, excellent.
They're releasing them into the streets, and they're actually training the business owners and the neighborhood to supply food and water, not necessarily food, but water and shelter if needed. But
what could possibly go wrong?
Well, I can tell you some songbirds are going to die.
This is true, but I mean, when you have a rat problem like Australia has, hey, you know what? Them birds can die. I don't want rat poop in my house. That stuff stank. It's nasty.
You're not wrong, but the states have never done anything good, even releasing cats.
The Terran Federation and the Terran League have been killing each other for decades. Sheltered, wealthy, and light years from the threat, the members of the 500 have no interest in change.
Disconnected from server.